there are questions etched into the fabric of time, whispers from the past that refuse to fade. Across centuries and continents, humanity has gazed into the unknown, searching for answers in shadows cast by events too strange to explain, too eerie to forget. A ship found adrift with no crew, its tea still warm. A lost civilization carved into stone, its language indecipherable. Lights that dance above the forest canopy, never caught, never explained. These are not the stories of fiction. They are fragments of our own history, unresolved, unsettling, and undeniably real. For every theory offered, another door opens. Why did entire populations vanish without a trace? What secrets lie buried beneath ancient ruins no modern tool can reach? And who, or what, continues to leave their mark without ever being seen? Tonight, we journey through time not for the answers, but to feel the weight of the questions. So sit back, relax, and let your mind drift as we explore 3 hours of history's most haunting, unsolved mysteries to fall asleep to. It was the spring of 453 AD, somewhere deep within the vast expanse of the Carpathian Basin, where thick forests stretch like veins through the heart of Europe, and the Danube winds in silence. An empire trembled as its greatest ruler vanished from the world of the living. Attila the Hun, the scourge of God, had been feared from the walls of Constantinople to the gates of Gaul. He led a confederation of nomadic tribes that devastated Roman cities, humbled emperors, and changed the political landscape of late antiquity. And yet, for all the terror he inspired on the battlefield, it was not the sword nor the spear that ended his reign. It was his wedding night. According to the Roman historian Priscus, one of the few contemporary sources we have, Attila died suddenly in the midst of celebration. He had just taken a new bride, Ildiko, a young woman of likely Germanic descent. As the revelries of the night died down, Attila retired to his chamber. By morning, he was found lifeless, lying on his back, with no visible wounds. His nose and mouth, however, were said to have been bleeding. A broken blood vessel, some have suggested. A drunken stupor leading to a fatal nosebleed. Perhaps a hemorrhage brought on by years of excess. But can that truly explain the death of one of the most formidable warlords the ancient world had ever seen? His followers, stunned and grieving, declared the event an accident. There was no time to question further. Hunnic tradition demanded a burial unlike any other. A secret interment, a grave that would never be found. And so, Attila's body was placed in a triple coffin, iron, silver, and gold. Legend says that a river, perhaps the Tisa or a hidden tributary, was diverted to dig the gravebed. Once the burial was complete, the river was allowed to flow again, concealing the tomb beneath its waters. To ensure secrecy, the slaves who performed the burial were executed. Their silence would preserve the mystery. And it did. To this day, the final resting place of Attila the Hun remains undiscovered. But what of his death? A simple nosebleed on the surface might sound plausible. Priscus wrote that Attila had consumed large amounts of alcohol that night, perhaps enough to render him unconscious. A burst blood vessel, he theorized, had choked him in his sleep. But this neat explanation has left historians and skeptics wondering. Could it have been something more? Poison? A quiet act of vengeance from his new wife, Ildiko? Theories abound. Some whisper that she may have been a pawn in a larger scheme, a planted assassin from the Roman Empire or the Germanic tribes, seeking justice for the destruction Attila had wrought. Others suggest she acted alone, grief-stricken over a forced marriage to a man who had slaughtered her people. But there's no evidence, no poison, no confession, no motive preserved in writing, only silence. there are those who question the very nature of the accounts we rely on. Priscus, while respected, was Roman, and the Romans had every reason to portray Attila's death as anticlimactic, as the end of a barbarian undone not by war, but by excess. A fitting irony for a feared conqueror, perhaps, but an unreliable truth. Then there are the more fringe theories. Some claim that Attila never truly died that night, that his death was faked by his own people to allow him to vanish into myth. These theories echo similar legends surrounding figures like King Arthur or Genghis Khan, men whose legends outgrew their mortality. Could the Huns, masters of fear and deception, have crafted such a story to preserve Attila's power even in absence? Others look to astronomical events and omens. Ancient chroniclers described a comet seen in the sky not long before Attila's death. Was it a harbinger? Did the Huns see it as a sign of change, of transition from one era to the next? Or was it just coincidence, one of many fragments folded into the tale as time passed and memory faded? Perhaps most tantalizing of all is the burial. If Attila's grave truly lies beneath a river, untouched for over 1,500 years, what might it contain? Weapons, gold, secrets of the Hunnic Empire, artifacts that could reshape our understanding of a culture often shrouded in Roman bias and mystery. Searches have been mounted, rivers scanned. Ground-penetrating radar has swept across suspected regions in Hungary and Romania, and yet nothing. No tomb, no coffin, no relic. Is it truly lost, or simply hidden too well? Or perhaps it's better this way. Because Attila was not just a man. He was an idea, a force of chaos in a world collapsing under its own weight. His name was a whisper that stirred panic across empires. Maybe, in some strange way, history has protected his mystery, ensuring that he remains, even now, just beyond our reach. And so, we are left with fragments: a wedding, a death, a vanished grave, a man who conquered half a continent and was undone in a single night. The story ends as it began, in silence, beneath the flowing water in the dark. Or does it? What secrets lie waiting beneath the rivers of Europe? And what might we discover if one day the current shifts, just enough to reveal the truth? Just as Attila the Hun slipped from history under a shroud of secrecy, we now turn our gaze from the rivers of Europe to the depths of the Mediterranean Sea, where another enigma lies submerged, half forgotten but never truly silent. Imagine the stillness beneath the waves. Pale shafts of sunlight filter through the surface, illuminating a seafloor littered with broken amphorae, bronze statues, and fragments of a vanished world. In 1901, off the coast of the small Greek island of Antikythera, sponge divers searching for shelter from a storm stumbled upon the wreckage of a Roman-era cargo ship, one that had lain undisturbed for nearly 2,000 years. Among the scattered relics, cloaked in coral and time, was something unlike anything anyone expected: a corroded mass of bronze and wood, seemingly unremarkable at first glance. It would take decades before its significance was understood. This was the Antikythera mechanism. When examined more closely, the object revealed a network of intricate gear wheels, finely toothed and precisely interlocked. It was a machine, clearly engineered, astonishingly complex, and ancient beyond belief. Dated to the 2nd or possibly even the late 3rd century BCE, the device defied every expectation of what ancient technology was thought to be capable of. What was it? The prevailing consensus among scholars today is that the Antikythera mechanism was an astronomical calculator, an analog computer designed to track celestial movements with astonishing accuracy. It could predict solar and lunar eclipses. It charted the phases of the moon. It modeled the movements of the known planets. It even accounted for the irregular orbit of the Moon using a sophisticated pin-and-slot mechanism, something modern clockmakers would not replicate for over a millennium. But here's the mystery. How? How did such technology exist at a time when most of the world still told time with sundials and used mathematics rooted in myth as much as science? Nothing else like it has ever been found from the ancient world. No blueprints, no prototypes, no written descriptions that match its complexity. Was it the product of a singular genius, lost to history? Some point to Archimedes or Hipparchus, mathematical minds who lived in roughly the same era as potential designers. But there is no definitive connection. The mechanism bears no signature, no name. And if it was known technology at the time, why have no others survived? Why is there not even a hint of its construction in the vast libraries of Roman or Greek engineering treatises? Could it be that this wasn't merely a rare object, but a relic from a lost lineage of advanced design? Some have speculated that the Antikythera mechanism was the pinnacle of a broader, now vanished tradition of mechanical knowledge. Perhaps the knowledge was preserved by only a select few, passed down quietly, deliberately obscured. Or perhaps it was destroyed, swept away by war, by fire, or by the long erosion of time. Others entertain more unorthodox theories. Was the device part of something larger? A navigational tool for advanced sea voyages? A component of a forgotten observatory or mechanical temple? Could it even be evidence of a technological peak in ancient civilization that surpassed what we've long believed possible? There are fringe theorists who suggest connections to civilizations even older than Greece. Atlantis is sometimes invoked, along with mysterious builders of megalithic monuments. These ideas lack hard evidence, but they linger in the margins of a scholarly debate, urging us not to dismiss what we cannot yet explain. And there are questions still unanswered. How was it built? The gearing required to produce such a device involves techniques of precision metalwork that weren't thought to exist until the Renaissance. The mechanism's creators would have needed not only an advanced understanding of astronomy and mathematics, but also access to tools and craftsmanship far beyond what is typically associated with the ancient world. Only fragments of the original mechanism survive. Advanced X-ray imaging and 3D reconstruction have helped researchers piece together its design, but large sections remain missing, possibly still lying on the seafloor, encased in sediment and time. Expeditions continue to search the Antikythera wreck site. New discoveries still surface: statues, coins, fragments of the ship, but nothing that fully explains the mechanism's origin or how it was used. The idea that it was a one-of-a-kind artifact persists, but so does the tantalizing possibility that more such devices once existed. What would we learn if a second mechanism were found? What history might be rewritten? The Antikythera mechanism stands today not just as a marvel of ancient engineering, but as a quiet challenge to our assumptions. It reminds us that history is not always linear, that progress can be lost as easily as it is made, and that some truths may lie not in what survives, but in what is missing. So we are left to wonder, what other marvels have slipped through the cracks of time? What knowledge once known has vanished into the sea, the earth, or the fire of forgotten libraries? And might the key to understanding our past be waiting still, beneath the waves, encrusted in silence, just beyond our reach? From the submerged gears of the Antikythera mechanism, we surface once more. This time to the highlands of Central Asia, where windswept grasslands roll endlessly under a pale sky, and the silence is broken only by the murmur of time. Here, nestled within the Altai Mountains of southern Siberia, lies a frozen world preserved beneath layers of permafrost and myth. In 1993, on the Ukok Plateau near the borders of Kazakhstan, China, and Mongolia, Russian archaeologists unearthed a burial unlike any they had ever seen. Inside a wooden chamber, sealed in ice for over 2,000 years, they found her, the woman who would come to be known as the Crimson Queen. She was laid to rest with immense care, draped in elaborately woven garments dyed deep red, adorned with ornate jewelry of gold and semi-precious stones, her body tattooed with swirling, stylized images of beasts and spirits. Surrounding her were offerings, horses, harnessed and arranged for the journey into the afterlife, containers of herbs, dishes of food, all of it frozen in place, as though time had simply stopped. This was a member of the Pazyryk culture, a nomadic people of the Iron Age who roamed these remote steppes. Known from Scythian lineage, the Pazyryks left behind richly decorated kurgans, burial mounds that offer glimpses into their beliefs, artistry, and rituals. Yet the Crimson Queen's tomb stood apart, both in its preservation and its mystery. Though no formal crown or scepter was found, the grandeur of her burial suggests she held enormous significance. Was she a priestess, a healer, a queen in all but name? The tomb tells a story of reverence, of status, and of symbolic power, but the details remain just beyond reach. Her body was remarkably intact, thanks to the permafrost that had seeped into the wooden chamber shortly after her burial. Yet it was the tattoos on her skin that first captivated the world. Faint but visible, the ink spiraled across her shoulder and arm in fantastical forms. Deer with curling antlers, feline predators with elongated bodies, creatures that seemed to exist somewhere between the real and the imagined. What did these images mean? Were they meant to protect her in the afterlife? To mark her role in society? Or were they symbols of something more esoteric, spiritual, medicinal, perhaps even cosmological? The discoveries around her tomb offered more questions than answers. For instance, the tomb contained artifacts from far beyond the Altai region. Silk from China, beads from Mesopotamia, even cannabis possibly used in shamanic rites. This suggests not only extensive trade networks but also a fusion of cultural and spiritual ideas, hints of a worldview that spanned continents. Then there is the matter of her cause of death. Initial studies suggested she died in her 20s or 30s, possibly from cancer. Her skeletal remains showed signs of deterioration consistent with the disease, and some researchers believe she may have used cannabis to manage the pain. If true, it would suggest a sophisticated understanding of medicinal plants, an early form of palliative care lost in the folds of time. But not all interpretations align. Some local Altai peoples viewed the excavation with unease. For them, the Crimson Queen was no artifact, but an ancestral figure, a guardian of balance and natural harmony. In the years following her removal, the region experienced a series of unusual natural disasters: earthquakes, floods, and severe storms. For some, this was no coincidence. Was something disturbed? Tensions grew between scientific teams and indigenous communities. Some elders requested the body be returned and reburied with proper rites. Eventually, she was placed in a climate-controlled museum in Gorno-Altaysk, though many believe her spirit still lingers uneasily. As with many ancient figures, the line between archaeology and folklore begins to blur. In local legends, there are stories of a woman shrouded in red, one who could walk between worlds, who communed with animals and spirits. Some have speculated whether the Crimson Queen might have inspired or embodied this myth, a memory passed down through oral tradition, now rediscovered in flesh and ink. The tattoos remain a focal point for speculation. Their complexity suggests more than mere decoration. Were they maps of constellations? symbols of initiation into a secret order, or perhaps a kind of visual language now lost to time. Fringe theories have emerged, quietly, cautiously. Some point to the unusual preservation of the tomb and the Queen's apparent knowledge of healing as evidence of forgotten technology or esoteric practices. Others connect her burial with broader Eurasian myths of divine women, sky priestesses, or guardians of hidden knowledge. These theories remain speculative, drawn more from silence than from substance, but the mystery endures. What we do know is that her tomb is part of a much larger story, of a people who lived in harmony with nature, who honored their dead with elaborate rites, and who left behind symbols we are only beginning to interpret. New tombs continue to be discovered in the region, sealed beneath ice and earth. Each excavation adds fragments to the puzzle, yet the full picture remains elusive. The Crimson Queen watches from across time, silent, preserved, and enigmatic. What else lies beneath the permafrost? What stories remain frozen, waiting to thaw? And if we listen closely, might the winds of the Altai still carry whispers of who she was and what she was meant to protect? As the wind sweeps across the Altai mountains and the whispers of the Crimson Queen fade into silence, our journey shifts, southward, across mountains and deserts, into the cradle of ancient civilization. Here, amid the arid hills of southeastern Turkey, half buried beneath layers of dust and forgotten centuries, lies a place that rewrites everything we thought we knew about our distant past. Göbekli Tepe. It rises not as a monument to kings or empires, but as a mystery carved in stone. A temple, if indeed that is what it was, built over 11,000 years ago. Older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, older even than the written word, and yet it should not exist. Perched on a gentle slope near the city of Şanlıurfa, Göbekli Tepe was first discovered in the 1960s. But at the time, its significance was not understood. Just another mound, they thought, one of many in a landscape dotted with ruins. It wasn't until 1994, when German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began excavating the site, that the truth began to emerge. Beneath layers of earth and backfill, Schmidt and his team unearthed a complex of carved megalithic pillars arranged in circular formations. Towering, T-shaped stones, some weighing up to 20 tons, stood upright in the ground. Many were intricately engraved with animals: foxes, snakes, boars, scorpions, vultures, etched in relief with a level of skill and intention that seemed impossible for a people who, according to conventional timelines, had not yet invented pottery, let alone organized religion or monumental architecture. The dating was unequivocal. Using radiocarbon analysis of surrounding organic material, Göbekli Tepe was determined to be at least 11,000 to 12,000 years old, placing it firmly in the pre-pottery Neolithic era, a time when humanity was still largely nomadic, just beginning to experiment with agriculture. So the question arises, who built it, and how? These were hunter-gatherers, living in small mobile groups. No cities, no metal tools, no domesticated animals. Yet they moved, shaped, and erected immense stones with mathematical precision. They created sacred space. They gathered for unknown rituals, perhaps even organized labor across generations. Why? Some researchers believe Göbekli Tepe was a ceremonial center, a place of gathering and worship, possibly the earliest known temple complex in human history. Its builders may have traveled from distant regions, drawn by shared beliefs or seasonal events. The site's alignment with celestial bodies has led some to suggest it functioned as an astronomical observatory, a kind of early calendar etched in stone. Others propose that Göbekli Tepe was a burial site or a location for ancestor worship, though no graves have been found within the enclosures themselves. Instead, the focus seems to be the pillars, their shapes anthropomorphic, their positions deliberate. Some feature abstract carvings that may represent arms, hands, belts. They are not merely stones, they are presences. Yet here, the mystery deepens. Because after building each enclosure, the people of Göbekli Tepe did something unusual. They deliberately buried them, filled in the spaces with debris and rubble, sealing their own creations beneath the earth. Then they built new ones, nearby or atop the old, in a cycle that continued for centuries. Why would a culture go to such effort to bury what they built? Was it an act of reverence, a ritual closure, or something else entirely, an attempt to preserve knowledge or perhaps to hide it? And why, after all that effort, was the entire site eventually abandoned around 8000 BCE and forgotten for millennia? Mainstream archaeology offers cautious theories. Perhaps Göbekli Tepe reflects a transitional phase in human development, when spiritual or communal centers encouraged the formation of agriculture and settled life. If so, it reverses the commonly accepted order of progress. Not we farmed and so built temples, but rather we built temples and so learned to farm. A stunning inversion of the narrative of civilization. But there are those who suggest something more radical. Fringe theorists propose that Göbekli Tepe is not the beginning of history, but the echo of an earlier chapter now lost. A remnant, perhaps, of an advanced civilization wiped away by the younger Dryas. A sudden climatic shift that ended the last ice age around 10,800 BCE. Could survivors of this cataclysm have preserved their knowledge here, encoded in stone? Were the animal carvings symbols of constellations, a zodiac of sorts, warning future generations of past destruction? Others point to the deliberate burial of the site as evidence of fear, of an event or memory, too dangerous to leave exposed. An ancient trauma memorialized in architecture, then hidden beneath the ground. No inscriptions remain, no written language, no direct link to later cultures. Yet, the influence of Göbekli Tepe may still echo through time. Nearby settlements from slightly later periods show increasing complexity. More permanent housing, rudimentary agriculture, early forms of domestication. Was Göbekli Tepe the spark that lit the fire of civilization, or simply the last flicker of an older flame? Only a fraction of the site has been excavated. Ground-penetrating radar reveals many more structures still buried beneath the hillside, untouched. What they contain, if anything, remains unknown, for now. So we are left to wonder. How many stories remain beneath the soil, waiting patiently to be uncovered? And what truths about our origins might lie in the dust of forgotten temples, built by hands we have yet to fully understand? As we leave behind the sacred stones of Göbekli Tepe, where forgotten builders etched mysteries into ancient limestone, we drift westward across continents and centuries into the mist-covered countryside of medieval England. Here, in the quiet fields of Suffolk, lies the village of WOOLPIT. Unassuming at first glance, nestled amid green meadows and low, rolling hills, this place might seem an unlikely host to a mystery. Yet, for over 800 years, one strange story has lingered in its soil, half forgotten, half remembered. It begins in the 12th century during the reign of King Stephen, or possibly King Henry II, depending on the account. The village of WOOLPIT took its name from deep pits dug long ago to trap wolves, a practical defense turned into legend. And it was near one of these pits, so the story goes, that villagers made a curious discovery. 2 children, a boy and a girl, unlike any they had ever seen. They were dressed in unfamiliar clothing made of a strange material, They spoke no language that anyone could recognize. But most striking of all was the color of their skin, described as green, a deep vegetable hue, as though tinted by something otherworldly. The villagers took the children in, offering them food and shelter. At first, they refused to eat anything given to them. Only when they were offered raw beans, still in their stalks, did they eat ravenously. Over time, their greenish color began to fade. The boy, the younger of the two, grew ill and eventually died. The girl, however, survived. She slowly learned to speak English and eventually shared the story of where she had come from. According to her account, they came from a land called St. Martin's Land, a place where the sun never shone and everything was bathed in perpetual twilight. All the people there were green, she said. She spoke of a strange underground place, separated from our world by a great river, and that she and her brother had somehow wandered away, following the sound of bells, until they emerged through a tunnel into the sunlight and into WOOLPIT. What are we to make of this? The earliest accounts come from two chroniclers, William of Newburgh and Ralph of Coggeshall, writing decades after the event supposedly took place. Each offers a slightly different version, though the core details remain consistent. Skeptics have long argued that the children were likely Flemish immigrants, orphaned and displaced during a time of local unrest and war. The green hue, some suggest, could have been the result of malnutrition, perhaps from anemia or a condition like chlorosis, which can give the skin a greenish tint. But even this explanation raises questions. How would two foreign children end up in a remote English village, speaking no recognizable language and wearing garments unknown to the locals? Why would the girl invent such a fantastical story about an underground land? And what of the detail that they were found near a wolf pit, almost as though emerging from the earth itself? Some folklorists see echoes of older myths and fairy tales. Stories of fae folk, changelings, or visitors from another realm are common across cultures. Could the tale of the green children have been shaped by such legends over time? A rural community confronted with something inexplicable may have reached for the only framework they had, folklore. But others have proposed stranger possibilities. Could the children have suffered from a rare genetic condition? Could their green hue be a symbolic or allegorical element, misunderstood over centuries of retelling? Or were they truly from a hidden realm, an underground world perhaps, that exists in the margins of our own? Some theorists have suggested the children came from a parallel dimension, one just slightly out of sync with our own reality. In this view, the tale of the subterranean river and eternal twilight is not myth, but memory, fragmented and filtered through the mind of a child. Others go further still, positing extraterrestrial origins. The children, they argue, were not from beneath the earth, but from beyond it. Lost travelers or survivors of a crash, their green skin a clue not to illness, but to their biology. The idea is fringe, of course, but in the absence of certainty, even the most speculative ideas continue to circulate. Yet the most enduring power of the story may lie in its ambiguity, because it resists resolution. No definitive records exist, no graves to examine, no artifacts to analyze. The story persists as a whisper in medieval manuscripts, its edges softened by time but never entirely erased. It straddles the line between history and folklore, truth and parable. It is told and retold, its details shifting slightly with each generation, an echo of something we no longer fully understand. The girl, it is said, grew up and was baptized. She lived for years in the village, eventually integrating into the local community. Some sources suggest she took the name Agnes and married a man in nearby King's Lynn. If so, she may have lived an ordinary life. forever marked by an extraordinary origin? But we do not know, and perhaps that is the point. For every answer we propose, another question emerges. And somewhere in the fields of Woolpit, where the soil has long since covered the old wolf traps, the wind still carries the story of two green children who walked out of the earth and into history. What really happened that day? And if there are places just beyond our sight, lands of twilight and silence, might others still wander across the boundaries, unnoticed, unremembered, yet somehow part of our world all the same? Beneath the still, sunlit waters off the coast of Japan's westernmost inhabited island, the sea holds its breath. Here, in the shadows just below the surface, nature seems to blur with something else, something angular, deliberate, and deeply unsettling. Divers who descend into these depths near Yonaguni Island often describe an eerie quiet, as though the ocean itself were guarding a secret. And at the heart of that secret lies an immense stone formation, impossibly regular, strangely symmetrical, and unlike anything else found in the region. The Yonaguni Monument. Discovered by accident in 1986 by local diver Kihachiro Arataki while scouting for new dive sites, the structure rests roughly 25 meters below the waves. At first glance, it resembles a submerged pyramid or a stepped ziggurat. Massive terraces, flat platforms, and sharp right angles that seem out of place in a world sculpted by water and time. It stretches over 150 meters in length, with walls that rise up to 25 meters tall, carved or shaped in ways that defy easy explanation. Geologists initially approached the site with caution. Some believed the formation to be nothing more than a natural outcrop, sandstone carved by the combined forces of tectonic activity and ocean currents. But the closer one looks, the harder that answer becomes to accept without question. The lines are too straight, the edges too clean. Certain surfaces appear to have been smoothed. Others bear the marks of what some claim are tool cuts or deliberate shaping. And then there are the features that seem to go beyond geology entirely. What appears to be a broad staircase runs along one side, flanked by evenly spaced platforms that resemble terraces. There's a flat, raised area that some divers have dubbed the main terrace, wide enough to stand upon, with edges sharp enough to rival modern stonework. At its base, large stone columns lie scattered, some upright, some toppled, resembling obelisks or gate posts. One chamber-like recess has been referred to as the stage, or altar, by those who believe it may once have served a ceremonial purpose. Are these the fingerprints of a forgotten culture, or simply the illusion of human design imposed upon nature's canvas? The question has split opinion for decades. Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus, has been one of the site's most vocal proponents. After years of studying the monument, Kimura has proposed that it is not only man-made, but potentially part of an ancient city, perhaps even a civilization long lost to rising seas. He points to stone paths, walls, and what he describes as inscriptions and carving-like symbols as evidence that human hands played a role in shaping Yonaguni. If he's right, it would mean that sophisticated architectural techniques existed in the region as far back as 10,000 years ago, well before the generally accepted rise of complex societies. Such a date would not only predate the pyramids of Egypt, but place the Yonaguni monument in the shadowy timeline of the last ice age, when sea levels were dramatically lower and coastlines stretched farther into what are now the oceans. But many remain skeptical. Mainstream geologists argue that the rock formations are the result of natural fracturing and weathering, known processes that can produce straight edges and geometric patterns under the right conditions. They point out that the sandstone at Yonaguni is prone to breaking along vertical and horizontal planes, leading to step-like structures. They caution against seeing intention where none exists, a phenomenon known as pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive patterns, faces, or meaning in random stimuli. Yet, for every voice urging caution, there are others drawn deeper into speculation. Could Yonaguni be a remnant of a culture we have no record of? A coastal people whose settlements were swallowed by rising seas at the end of the last ice age? Is it possible that oral histories and flood myths passed down across Asia, Polynesia, and beyond are echoes of that ancient memory? Some connect Yonaguni to the legendary lost continent of Mu, a theoretical civilization said to have existed in the Pacific Ocean. Though the concept of Mu originated in 19th century pseudo-archaeology and has since been widely discredited, it lingers on in popular imagination. Others link it to ancient Japan's own legends, the Ryugu-jo, the dragon palace beneath the sea, or the mysterious underwater realms described in the Kojiki, Japan's oldest chronicle. Fringe theorists even suggest extraterrestrial involvement or the remnants of unknown advanced technology, citing the monument's scale and precision. Though such claims drift far from the realm of empirical evidence, they speak to the persistent fascination the site commands. But perhaps the truth is simpler and stranger than any single explanation. Because regardless of origin, the Yonaguni monument challenges our understanding of the boundary between nature and human expression. It occupies a liminal space, not just beneath the sea, but between disciplines, between certainty and speculation. A structure that is both compellingly real and frustratingly elusive. No artifacts have been conclusively linked to the monument. No inscriptions verified, no human remains discovered nearby. And so, the story of Yonaguni remains suspended in silence, caught between tides and time. Today, divers continue to descend into its depths, tracing the edges of stone with outstretched hands, trying to read a language that may no longer exist. Scientists map its contours, scholars debate its meaning, and the ocean, indifferent and eternal, guards its secret. So what lies beneath Yonaguni? A natural marvel, a forgotten monument, or something else entirely, something that challenges the very chronology we use to define our world? Perhaps the answers remain just out of reach, drifting with the current, waiting for the moment when sea and stone, past and present, finally converge. Beneath the dry, sun-scorched earth of ancient Nineveh, once the beating heart of a mighty empire, there lies a story buried not only in stone, but in silence. In what is now northern Iraq, the ruins of this once magnificent Assyrian capital whisper of forgotten kings, vanished gods, and a library that should never have survived the fire that consumed it. Here, amid the crumbling remnants of palaces and gates, archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary in the mid-19th century. Thousands upon thousands of clay tablets, hardened by flame and etched in cuneiform, the wedge-shaped script of a civilization long past. This was the library of Ashurbanipal, ruler of Assyria in the 7th century BCE, a king known as much for his thirst for knowledge as for his mastery of conquest. Ashurbanipal was no ordinary monarch. He was a warrior scholar, a rare blend of brutal tactician and intellectual collector. Unlike many rulers of his time, he could read and write, reportedly in multiple languages. He saw knowledge not merely as a tool of governance, but as a power in its own right, something to be hunted, captured, and preserved. And so, over the course of his reign, he ordered scribes to scour the known world for texts, religious hymns, astronomical calculations, legal codes, omens, medical treatises, myths, rituals, and royal chronicles. Every scrap of wisdom was to be copied and stored in his great library in Nineveh. What they gathered became one of the most significant collections of recorded knowledge from the ancient world. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's oldest surviving literary work, was recovered from its shattered shelves. Texts on divination, star charts, and surgical procedures rested side by side with prophecies and spells. Some of the tablets bore strange annotations, personal notes by scribes, corrections, even warnings. One inscription reads ominously, "He who removes this tablet without the king's permission shall be cursed and his name erased." And yet, what has been found may only be a fraction of what once existed, because ASHURBANIPAL'S library, for all its grandeur, met the same fate as his empire. In 612 BCE, the Medes and Babylonians united to sack Nineveh, raising the city in a blaze of destruction. Fires consumed palaces, temples, and homes, but paradoxically this inferno preserved much of the library. The heat baked the clay tablets, hardening them for millennia. It's thanks to this disaster that we know what we do. Still, of the estimated 30,000 tablets recovered, many are incomplete. Thousands more remain in storage, untranslated or fragmented, and scholars suspect that other parts of the library, perhaps even its most precious sections, remain buried or were looted long ago. Intriguingly, some records hint at a hidden annex, a room or rooms containing texts too sacred or dangerous for the public archive. These so-called tablets of shadow were said to contain forbidden knowledge, cosmologies, incantations, and rituals meant only for the highest temple priests or the king himself. Were they real? And if so, where are they now? This question has puzzled archaeologists and historians alike. Early excavators in the 19th century often failed to document precise find spots, and their rush to ship artifacts back to European museums led to the scattering, and sometimes disappearance, of key pieces. Some researchers believe entire crates of tablets may have been misfiled, mislabeled, or even lost in transit. Others have pointed to private collections, where cuneiform tablets occasionally appear on the black market with no known provenance. More intriguingly, some fringe theorists have suggested that the most sensitive tablets were never meant to survive. According to this view, ASHURBANIPAL, aware of the power his collection held, may have ordered certain texts to be hidden or destroyed before Nineveh fell. These theorists cite references in royal inscriptions to books of the heavens and the earth that were copied only once, and to secrets not to be spoken in daylight. Could these refer to astronomical knowledge far ahead of its time, descriptions of ancient technologies, or encoded myths with meanings we have yet to decipher? Some scholars draw parallels between ASHURBANIPAL'S library and other legendary repositories of lost knowledge, the Library of Alexandria, the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, even Plato's accounts of Atlantis. Could there be a pattern? Powerful civilizations collecting wisdom, only to see it vanish in fire and war. If so, what does that say about humanity's relationship with knowledge? Do we safeguard it, or do we erase it when it becomes inconvenient? There's another layer to this mystery, one far more subtle. Among the surviving texts are collections of omens, elaborate systems of divination based on the stars, the livers of animals, the movement of smoke, the appearance of dreams. These weren't seen as superstition in ASHURBANIPAL'S time. They were a form of science, a way of decoding the divine order of the universe. The line between magic and mathematics was thinner then, perhaps non-existent. And if some of the missing tablets held the culmination of these systems, a unified cosmology perhaps, it could explain why such knowledge was so closely guarded. Even today, efforts to digitize and translate the remaining tablets are painstakingly slow. Each fragment must be carefully cleaned, photographed, and compared with others, like assembling a jigsaw puzzle where most of the pieces are missing and no picture exists to guide you. Teams of scholars, aided by artificial intelligence and machine learning, are beginning to match fragments once thought unrelated. Slowly, a fuller picture is emerging, but gaps remain. Haunting, yawning gaps. So what might still lie beneath the sands of Nineveh? Could there be sealed chambers untouched by fire? Tablets entombed in collapsed walls or buried under meters of rubble, awaiting rediscovery? Might some of ASHURBANIPAL'S darkest texts, his books of shadow, have survived the centuries in secret, passed from hand to hand, their contents too potent to be revealed? We may never know. But the idea lingers, persistent as the cuneiform etched into clay, that somewhere the last truths of an ancient empire lie waiting, locked beneath dust and stone, hidden not just by time but by intention. And in the flickering light of history's forgotten corners, we are left to wonder, what knowledge was deemed too dangerous to survive, and what legacy might still sleep undisturbed beneath the ruins of a vanished king's dream? The trail of forgotten knowledge has taken us from scorched clay tablets buried beneath the ruins of ancient empires to questions of what truths may never have been meant for human eyes. But as we leave the sands of Nineveh behind, the mystery deepens still, shifting from script and shadow into the gleaming, almost translucent stare of something far stranger. Carved from pure quartz crystal, cold to the touch and unnervingly lifelike, the crystal skulls have captivated and confounded historians, archaeologists, and seekers of the unexplained for over a century. Smooth and polished, often with jawbones that appear to articulate, these enigmatic objects seem to defy not only time, but understanding. Their surfaces, under close examination, hold no signs of modern tooling. Some appear to have been shaped against the grain of the crystal itself, a feat that should, by all known techniques, result in shattering. And yet they endure, unblemished, almost impossibly perfect. The most famous among them, the so-called Mitchell-Hedges skull, emerged into public attention in the early 20th century. According to its namesake, British adventurer F.A. Mitchell-Hedges, it was discovered by his adopted daughter Anna during a 1924 expedition to the ancient Mayan ruins of Lubantun in what is now Belize. She claimed to have found the skull beneath a collapsed altar inside a temple, buried in darkness for centuries. An object of unknown origin, resting in silence until its unearthing. But even from the beginning, the story seemed too perfect. The skull's resemblance to an idealized human cranium, complete with clear optical channels and removable mandible, led some to describe it as a masterpiece of pre-Columbian craftsmanship, imbued with spiritual energy. Others viewed it as a fraud, planted or purchased, later wrapped in legend. The British Museum and the Smithsonian Institution both hold their own versions of crystal skulls, as do private collectors across the globe. Some are crudely carved, others are disturbingly detailed. Who made them? And more importantly, why? The early narrative often tied these skulls to Mesoamerican civilizations, the Maya, the Aztecs, even earlier cultures lost to history. Legends grew up around them, whispering of rituals, prophecy, and death. Some said the skulls held ancient wisdom, even consciousness, or were part of a sacred set. 13 skulls scattered across the world, which, when reunited, would reveal lost knowledge, or perhaps prevent global catastrophe. This idea, rich in myth and cinematic in scope, found its way into books, documentaries, and pop culture. But where did it come from? Not the ancient world, it turns out. No known Mesoamerican texts or carvings reference crystal skulls. No temples have been found that were dedicated to them. and no skulls have been recovered in a scientifically documented archaeological context. What we do have is analysis. In the late 20th century, high-powered microscopes and modern imaging tools were applied to several of the skulls. Researchers at the British Museum, for instance, found evidence of rotary wheels and abrasives typical of 19th-century European craftsmanship. The Smithsonian skull, sent anonymously in the 1990s, showed similar signs of modern carving tools. And the Mitchell-Hedges skull? Despite its mythical origin story, documents suggest it may have been purchased at an auction in London decades after its supposed discovery. Still, the mystery lingers. Not because of what's proven, but because of what's not. There are some who believe that dismissing the skulls as mere hoaxes overlooks the deeper symbolic role they may have played. After all, skull imagery was important to Mesoamerican societies. The Aztec tzompantli, or skull rack, displayed the heads of sacrificial victims as a message to both gods and enemies. The Maya carved skulls into their temples, representing not only death, but the cycle of rebirth and divine knowledge. Could it be that the crystal skulls were inspired by these traditions, created not as fakes but as devotional objects in a newer, more mysterious cultural framework, one we do not yet understand? Others point to the material itself. Quartz crystal, often described as a conduit for energy in metaphysical traditions. Crystal enthusiasts have long claimed that quartz can store information, resonate with frequencies, or even influence consciousness. In that light, the skulls are seen not merely as sculptures, but as devices, repositories of memory, intention, or healing. This interpretation veers far from academic consensus, but it continues to attract a devoted following. There are still more speculative theories. Some believe the skulls are remnants of an antediluvian civilization. Perhaps Atlantis or another culture wiped out at the end of the last ice age. Others suggest extraterrestrial involvement, pointing to the anatomical precision and optical qualities of the skulls as evidence of technology beyond Earth. And while these ideas are not supported by mainstream archaeology, they reflect the very human urge to see pattern and meaning in the unexplainable. So, where does that leave us? We're left with objects that resist categorization, artifacts that inspire curiosity, skepticism, and awe in equal measure. Whether carved by 19th century artisans or unknown hands far older, the crystal skulls exist. They endure. And in their cold, silent gaze, they reflect not only our fascination with the ancient world, but also our longing to bridge the gap between what we know and what we feel might be true. Are they relics of a forgotten wisdom? Elaborate forgeries shaped for fame and fortune? Or something else entirely? Symbols that still speak to us across time, inviting questions we're not yet ready to answer. Perhaps the real mystery is not just in the skulls themselves, but in the enduring silence around them. A silence that persists, even now, like a breath held between centuries, waiting to be heard. As we continue our journey through the forgotten corners of history, we arrive in the arid heart of southern Mesopotamia, where the ancient city of ERIDU once stood, its name now an echo, a distant memory. Today, the land is desolate, the ground cracked by the heat of the sun, and the rivers that once nurtured this cradle of civilization have shifted course, leaving behind little more than whispers of what once thrived there. Yet, ERIDU is no ordinary city. It is one of the oldest settlements known to humanity, and it may hold the key to understanding the origins of civilization itself. ERIDU, once a thriving metropolis in the ancient land of Sumer, is often regarded as the birthplace of Mesopotamian culture. According to Sumerian texts, it was the first city to be created by the gods. In myth, ERIDU was established by the god Enki, the deity of water, wisdom, and creation, who, it was said, chose the site for its abundant resources and fertile lands. Archaeologists have found evidence that ERIDU was continuously occupied for more than 4,000 years, making it one of the longest inhabited urban centers in history. But despite its prominence in the ancient world, the fate of ERIDU remains one of the great mysteries of archaeology. The city's ruins, located near the modern town of Abu Shahrain in Iraq, have been partially excavated, revealing the remnants of ziggurats, temples, and houses that once stood at the heart of this early urban center. At its peak, ERIDU was a vibrant hub of religious, political, and economic activity. It was the home of some of the earliest known temples dedicated to the gods, and it played a central role in the development of writing, law, and administration in the Sumerian civilization. Yet, despite its early importance, ERIDU's decline is shrouded in obscurity. When and why did it fade into obscurity? Why did this once great city, considered by some to be the very cradle of civilization, vanish from the historical record? The answers to these questions are not easily found. The ruins of ERIDU lie abandoned, as if frozen in time, and the texts that might have explained its decline have long since been lost to history. One of the most puzzling aspects of ERIDU's history is the absence of a clear reason for its fall. Unlike other ancient cities which were destroyed by invasions or natural disasters, there is no definitive record that explains ERIDU's disappearance. Archaeological evidence suggests that the city gradually declined over several centuries, possibly due to a combination of environmental factors, such as changes in the course of the Euphrates River or shifting climatic conditions. Some theories suggest that the once fertile land surrounding ERIDU became increasingly inhospitable, leading to the gradual abandonment of the city. Another theory proposes that the decline of ERIDU may have been tied to the rise of other powerful cities in Sumer, such as Ur and Uruk. As these cities grew in importance, ERIDU's once central role in the region may have diminished, leading to its eventual decline. However, this does not fully explain why ERIDU, which was considered the first city by the Sumerians themselves, would fade into obscurity while other cities continued to flourish. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of ERIDU's mystery is the role it played in the mythological traditions of Mesopotamia. In the Sumerian creation myth, ERIDU is depicted as the first city on Earth, established by the gods themselves. According to the Enki and Ninhursag myth, ERIDU was the site of the first temple, where the god Enki resided and dispensed wisdom to humanity. The city was seen as a place of divine intervention, a center of cosmic order where the gods and humans coexisted in harmony. But as the centuries passed, the gods abandoned ERIDU and the city fell into decline. Some ancient texts suggest that ERIDU's fall was linked to the rise of new religious and political centers, with the gods' favor shifting to other cities. Was this a reflection of changing power dynamics, or did the city's decline mirror a deeper shift in the relationship between humanity and the divine? The idea that ERIDU's fall was tied to the gods' abandonment of the city raises a number of unsettling questions. Could the city's decline have been a symbolic reflection of a broader shift in human civilization? Was ERIDU, in some sense, a city that was too closely tied to divine favor, and as the gods turned their attention elsewhere, the city's downfall was inevitable? There are those who argue that the abandonment of ERIDU was part of a larger pattern seen across the ancient world. The rise and fall of civilizations, often without clear cause, as if the gods themselves were orchestrating the cycles of history. Was ERIDU merely one chapter in a larger story of human hubris, a story that has played out in countless other ancient civilizations? Yet, there are still other theories that lean more toward the practical, rooted in environmental and social dynamics. Some scholars believe that the shift in the course of the Euphrates River, combined with the gradual desertification of the region, may have forced the people of ERIDU to abandon their city. The fertile lands that once supported the city's growth may have become arid, making it difficult to sustain life. This theory would explain why ERIDU, once a thriving center of culture and religion, could have slowly faded into obscurity. Others suggest that the city's decline was linked to a broader political shift. As other cities like Ur and Uruk grew in power, ERIDU may have been eclipsed, its once dominant role in the region reduced to a mere shadow. The decline of ERIDU could then be a reflection of the broader shifts in power that characterized the history of Mesopotamia. But perhaps the most unsettling question remains: what happened to the people of ERIDU? Did they simply leave, migrating to other regions in search of better prospects, or did they vanish entirely, leaving no trace behind? The fact that ERIDU's decline was not accompanied by destruction, by war, by invasion, or by disaster makes its mystery all the more profound. Where did the people go, and why did they leave their once great city behind? The answers may never come, and the enigma of ERIDU's fall may remain unsolved for generations to come. Yet, the city's story persists, urging us to explore its forgotten ruins, to sift through its dust for clues, and to wonder at the ancient civilizations that once built, flourished, and disappeared without a trace. As we continue to seek answers, one thing remains certain. The lost city of ERIDU holds more questions than it does answers. And beneath its crumbling stones, the secrets of its rise and fall lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered. As we step away from the lost temples and forgotten cities of the ancient world, we turn our attention to a different kind of enigma. A book, but not just any book. This is a manuscript so strange, so impenetrable, that it has defied understanding for centuries. Known as the VOYNICH manuscript, its very existence raises more questions than answers. A beautifully crafted artifact from the early 15th century, it is bound in vellum, its pages filled with elaborate drawings and mysterious text, yet it remains unreadable to this day. The manuscript was discovered in 1912 by a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich in the library of the Jesuit College at the University of Rome. Its origins are shrouded in mystery, with no known author or context to explain its creation. The book itself is roughly 240 pages long, although some pages are missing or damaged, and its contents are unlike anything else in history. The script, which fills the pages from top to bottom, contains over 170,000 characters, none of which bear any resemblance to any known language, past or present. It is as if a cipher or code has been used, but no one has ever succeeded in cracking it. The illustrations that accompany the text add yet another layer of intrigue. Some of the drawings appear to depict botanical species that don't correspond to any plants known to modern science. Others show human figures engaged in what seem to be strange rituals, with enigmatic symbols and stars surrounding them. There are diagrams that resemble astronomical charts, others that look like anatomical sketches, and some that appear to show bath-like structures filled with liquid, surrounded by naked women, their bodies intricately drawn. Yet, despite all the detail and care put into its creation, no one can say for certain what the manuscript is about, or who created it. Some believe the Voynich manuscript is simply the work of an elaborate hoax. Perhaps it was a prank, a work of art designed to confuse and mystify. However, this theory is met with skepticism, given the manuscript's complexity and the skill evident in its construction. The script alone is a masterpiece, unlike anything else in history, suggesting that it is far more than a mere forgery. Other theories delve into the realm of the supernatural, speculating that the manuscript could be the work of an alien intelligence, or perhaps a secret society. The cryptic nature of the script and the bizarre illustrations have led some to suggest that the Voynich manuscript might hold the secrets of an ancient civilization that existed long before recorded history. Could this manuscript be a relic from a lost culture, one with knowledge and technology far beyond our own? Some even believe it could be a magical text, an ancient grimoire containing knowledge lost to time, waiting to be unlocked. There are more grounded theories as well. Some linguists and cryptographers have devoted their lives to attempting to decipher the text, but none have succeeded. The manuscript has been analyzed using every technique available, from frequency analysis to sophisticated computer algorithms, yet no one has been able to determine whether the text is a true language or merely a series of meaningless symbols. Some have suggested that the manuscript is written in a highly sophisticated code, while others believe it could be a form of shorthand or a constructed language that was never meant to be understood by anyone outside of its creator's circle. The manuscript's botanical illustrations have also sparked considerable debate. Some of the plants depicted in the manuscript do resemble real-world species, but many others appear completely unknown. Is it possible that the manuscript is a record of plants from a far-off land, a place that has since been lost to time? Or could these plants be entirely fictional, symbols created to represent something deeper? What if the plants themselves are metaphors, part of a coded system, representing concepts or knowledge that we are yet to fully comprehend? Another intriguing aspect of the Voynich manuscript is its connection to alchemy and the occult. Some have suggested that the manuscript could have been created by alchemists seeking to pass down secret knowledge without revealing it directly. Alchemists were known for their cryptic texts, filled with symbols, codes, and imagery that could only be understood by those initiated into their secrets. The Voynich manuscript, with its mysterious script and cryptic drawings, could fit neatly into this tradition. But then again, its baffling nature raises more questions than answers. If it were indeed a secret alchemical text, why has no one been able to crack its code? In more recent years, some researchers have suggested that the manuscript could be a medical or scientific text, possibly related to herbalism or anatomy. The numerous drawings of plants, as well as the odd human figures, might point to this possibility. Could the Voynich manuscript have been a compendium of medical knowledge, hidden away for centuries to protect it from those who might misuse it? Or perhaps it is a manual for a lost practice of medicine, one that has been forgotten to time? Given the rich history of medicinal herbs in the ancient world, this theory cannot be dismissed entirely, but it remains speculative at best. The manuscript's first known owner, Wilfrid Voynich, believed it to be an ancient and valuable work of scholarship, and he spared no effort in attempting to unlock its secrets. Voynich enlisted the help of linguists, cryptographers, and scholars, all of whom were stumped by the manuscript's mystery. Some of the most brilliant minds of the time, including those from institutions such as the University of Prague and the Vatican, attempted to decipher the text, yet all were left empty-handed. Despite their best efforts, the Voynich manuscript remains one of the most baffling puzzles ever to be presented to the world. In the years since its discovery, the Voynich manuscript has captured the imaginations of scholars, conspiracy theorists, and puzzle enthusiasts alike. It has inspired books, documentaries, and countless attempts at decipherment, each bringing with it a new layer of mystery. As of today, the manuscript remains an unsolved enigma, its meaning and purpose still hidden from our understanding. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Voynich manuscript is not the tantalizing hints it gives us, but the complete lack of understanding it provides. We are faced with something that seems to exist outside the bounds of history, language, and culture. An object so strange that it seems to belong to a different time, or even a different reality. Is the manuscript a coded message, an ancient text, or a work of fiction? And as the centuries roll on, we are left to wonder what truths might be hidden within the pages of the Voynich manuscript. What knowledge, ancient, forgotten, or yet to be discovered, does it contain? The manuscript waits, as enigmatic as ever, and the answers remain just beyond our reach. As we leave behind the perplexing riddles of ancient texts, we now turn our attention to another of history's most intriguing and enigmatic manuscripts, one that has been cloaked in legend and mystery for centuries. Its name is the Codex GIGAS, but it is far more commonly known by another, far more ominous title, the Devil's Bible. This immense volume, bound in dark leather, weighs over 75 pounds and is considered one of the largest medieval manuscripts in existence. Its pages are meticulously crafted, filled with a text so vast it stretches across more than 300 sheets of parchment, each one made from the skins of over 160 donkeys. The codex itself is nothing short of a marvel of medieval craftsmanship, its creation an achievement that would have taken years, if not decades, to complete. But it is not the sheer size of the manuscript that makes it so captivating. It is the extraordinary and unsettling contents within. At first glance, the Codex GIGAS appears to be a standard illuminated manuscript, containing a Latin translation of the Bible, along with various other texts, including historical accounts, medical treatises, and even charms for exorcisms. Yet, it is the presence of a single, striking image that sets this book apart from any other. A full-page illustration of a towering, horned figure with red skin, an image that is widely believed to represent none other than the devil himself. This grotesque figure is often cited as the reason the manuscript has earned its eerie nickname, the Devil's Bible. The figure's demonic presence looms over the text, seemingly casting a shadow of malevolence upon the entire manuscript. But what is the true story behind this strange and foreboding tome? How did such a massive and visually arresting work come to be created? And why has it been so heavily associated with dark, supernatural forces throughout history? The Codex GIGAS is thought to have been created in the early 13th century, most likely in what is now the Czech Republic. Its exact origins are difficult to pinpoint, but the manuscript is believed to have been produced in the scriptorium of a Benedictine monastery, where scribes dedicated their lives to copying and preserving sacred texts. The manuscript's creation is attributed to a single scribe, who, according to legend, was a monk condemned to be walled up alive for his sins. Facing certain death, the monk purportedly made a desperate pact with the devil, promising his soul in exchange for the power to complete such an immense manuscript in a single night. The story holds that, aided by dark forces, the monk managed to complete the Codex GIGAS in a matter of hours, sealing his pact with the devil by including the disturbing illustration of the infernal figure within the pages. While the story is undoubtedly a piece of folklore, the sheer scale and scope of the manuscript's creation seem to have fueled the legend. In reality, the codex likely took years to produce, and there is no historical evidence to support the tale of the monk's infernal bargain. Nonetheless, the legend endures, adding to the manuscript's mystique. The Codex GIGAS is a masterwork of medieval illumination, its pages adorned with intricate drawings, vibrant colors, and ornate decorations. Yet the content itself is what truly fascinates. The Bible is the central focus of the manuscript, but interspersed among the sacred texts are numerous secular works, including medical treatises, histories, and even a section dedicated to astrology. The inclusion of such diverse material suggests that the Codex was not merely a religious text, but also a repository of knowledge, a compilation of the wisdom and lore of its time. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the Codex GIGAS is its final, unexplainable detail: the devilish figure that looms large on one of its pages. The devil, depicted in an almost comic book-like style, seems to tower over the rest of the illustrations, its eyes wide and its grin malevolent. Some have speculated that the image is meant to serve as a warning or a symbol of the manuscript's darker origins. But what could have driven the scribe to include such a sinister figure in a work otherwise so rich in learning and religious devotion? Throughout history, the Codex GIGAS has been shrouded in mystery, its very existence sparking questions that no one has yet answered. For centuries, it was kept in the library of the Benedictine monastery of Podlages, where it was said to have been used as a tool for prayer and reflection. However, the manuscript's fate took a dramatic turn in the 17th century, when the monastery was dissolved by the Swedish army during the 30 Years' War. The Codex GIGA was taken as a war trophy and subsequently vanished from sight for a time. It eventually found its way into the hands of various European collectors, and in 1648 it was purchased by the Royal Library in Stockholm, where it remains to this day. The manuscript's tumultuous journey through history has only added to its mystique. Throughout its travels, it has been linked to a series of strange events and unexplained phenomena. Some have suggested that the Codex GIGAS is cursed, that it brings misfortune or even death to those who come into contact with it. Others point to its unsettling image of the devil as a sign of its sinister origins, arguing that the very act of creating such a book could have been an affront to the divine. Despite these dark associations, there is no concrete evidence to support the idea that the Codex GIGAS is anything more than an extraordinary manuscript created by an unknown scribe in medieval Europe. Yet the presence of the devilish figure within its pages and the cryptic legend surrounding its creation leaves a room for speculation. Could the manuscript have been intended as a work of religious or magical significance, perhaps created by a secret order or a hidden cult? Could it be a message, a warning encoded in both image and text, meant to convey a deeper, more obscure truth? Some have even suggested that the Codex GIGAS contains hidden knowledge, a secret code embedded within its text, waiting to be deciphered. Is the manuscript simply a work of medieval scholarship, or does it conceal something more? A key to understanding the hidden forces that shaped the course of history. One thing is certain: the Codex GIGAS remains an enigma, its pages a portal to a past we may never fully understand. As we study its cryptic imagery, its strange history, and the myriad theories that surround it, we are reminded that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some, it seems, are meant to leave us with more questions than answers, an invitation to peer into the unknown and wonder what might be hidden just beyond our reach. What is the true story behind the Devil's Bible? What secrets, if any, does it hold within its pages? The Codex GIGAS waits as enigmatic as ever, offering no easy answers, only more questions, each one drawing us deeper into its shadowy world. As the night stretches on, we find ourselves once again turning our gaze to the eerie, inexplicable mysteries that dot the landscape of history. In the quiet hills and woodlands of Devon, England, a peculiar story lingers, passed down through generations. A tale of footprints that appeared overnight in the dead of winter in the year 1855. These were not the prints of any known creature, nor the mark of any man. These were footprints, it seemed, of the devil himself. The event began on the night of February 8, 1855, when a strange phenomenon appeared in the snow that blanketed the rural countryside. The mysterious marks began near the town of Exmouth and stretched for more than 40 miles, leaving many perplexed and deeply unnerved. Witnesses described a series of hoof-like prints, approximately 8 inches in length, which appeared to be imprinted in the snow, as though some great beast had passed through. These prints were unique in their alignment, appearing in a single, unbroken line, with no discernible direction in which the creature had veered or turned. It was as if the animal, or entity, had moved in a straight, deliberate path, appearing to defy the laws of nature. As the footprints were discovered, the mystery deepened. The prints were spaced evenly and seemed to cross impossible terrain. Some were found atop walls, others in the middle of streets, and many appeared to emerge from or disappear into the walls of buildings. There was no clear pattern as to where the prints began or ended, yet their consistency and persistence across the landscape hinted at something far beyond the normal reach of logic. The marks themselves were peculiar, their depth too consistent to suggest the erratic movements of a bird or other animal. The prints did not simply vanish into the snow. They remained, pressed deeply into the frozen surface, leaving an undeniable imprint. Even more unsettling, the footprints did not seem to follow any natural animal track. They appeared to hover above the ground, as if created by something walking upon air. Over time, speculation ran wild. Some believed it was the devil himself who had made his way through the countryside, leaving his mark upon the earth. The residents of Devon, in a region already steeped in folklore, saw these footprints as a sign of evil. Given their appearance during the cold, harsh winter months and the eerie isolation of the surrounding countryside, it seemed as though the devil had come to walk among them. It's said that many villagers, convinced of the demonic origin of the prints, performed religious ceremonies to expel the dark presence they believed had descended upon their homes. Others looked for more grounded explanations, turning to the physical nature of the prints themselves. Several hypotheses were put forward, ranging from the plausible to the outlandish. One theory suggested that a local herd of deer might have been responsible for the marks, their hooves perhaps appearing oddly arranged due to the peculiarities of the snow. But as more evidence emerged, such as the prints found atop rooftops and walls, this explanation began to unravel. Some speculated that the prints were created by a mischievous prankster, someone with an uncanny ability to create the illusion of a larger-than-life creature. Perhaps they had walked through the countryside wearing some kind of contraption that left behind these bizarre markings. Yet no one ever came forward to claim responsibility for such a complex hoax. And still, others suggested that the footprints were the result of some natural, yet still unexplained phenomenon. A rare atmospheric event that left behind an imprint that could not be easily explained. Could it be that some atmospheric conditions caused the snow to compress in such a way that it mimicked the appearance of footprints? Was there a physical, environmental explanation for what seemed so impossibly bizarre? It is a theory that, though grounded in science, has never been able to fully answer all the questions surrounding the phenomenon. Despite these more conventional explanations, the supernatural theory still holds a grip on the public imagination. It is impossible to ignore the surrounding folklore that has accompanied the devil's footprints for centuries. The region of Devon, and much of England itself, has long been a place rich with tales of witchcraft, devil worship, and folklore about strange and otherworldly creatures. From the stone circles that dot the countryside to the many legends of mischievous spirits and dark forces, there is an undeniable tradition of mystery in this part of the world. One of the most enduring aspects of the devil's footprints is how the tracks seemingly appeared out of nowhere, and how they seem to defy the very laws of nature. There is a certain weight to the mystery, a feeling that no rational explanation can fully encompass the bizarre details of this event. The way the tracks appeared on rooftops, in the middle of narrow streets, or stretched across wide distances with no clear origin, these facts continue to suggest that whatever left them behind was not bound by the same rules of physics or logic that govern the rest of the world. The footprints have left an imprint on the collective psyche of those who live in Devon, and even those beyond it. Over the years, numerous attempts have been made to solve the mystery, but each effort has come up short, leaving the story still as unanswered as it was when the first prints appeared. Modern scholars, too, have tried to examine the phenomenon, yet no one has been able to put forth a definitive explanation for what happened. Today, the mystery of the devil's footprints remains unsolved, and the tracks themselves are gone, reduced to memories, stories, and the occasional photograph from a distant past. Yet their significance lingers. What can we make of such a baffling event? Was it merely a product of natural forces, a strange and unusual occurrence that could be explained by science and reason? Or was it, as some have always believed, a supernatural visitation, a reminder of the unknown forces that still lurk just beyond the realm of human understanding? Perhaps the true answer lies somewhere between folklore and fact, in that ever-fascinating space where the mysteries of history beckon us to look deeper and question what we think we know. The devil's footprints have never been fully explained, and as we gaze into the distant past, we are left with one final thought. What other secrets are still waiting to be discovered in the quiet hills and hidden valleys of the world, their footprints yet to be found? The answers, it seems, remain hidden, leaving us to wonder if the devil truly walked among us, or if something far stranger, and perhaps far more inexplicable, passed through the shadows of history. As we journey deeper into the underworld of history's most perplexing mysteries, we come to a place where the earth itself holds secrets, secrets that have remained buried beneath layers of stone for centuries. The LONGYOU Caverns, a sprawling network of caves located in the heart of Zhejiang province in China, have captivated explorers, archaeologists, and historians alike with their strange, almost unnatural features. These caverns, which stretch beneath the earth in an intricate labyrinth, are not like any other natural cave system. No, what sets the LONGYOU Caverns apart is something much more puzzling, something that raises as many questions as it does eyebrows. At first glance, these caves seem to be a product of nature's slow and unyielding processes. But as we look closer, the story takes a strange turn. Carved into the rock with a precision that seems far beyond the capabilities of the tools available to ancient civilizations, the LONGYOU Caverns appear to be the work of human hands, craftsmanship that should not exist, at least not in this remote, unassuming location, and not from the time it seems to belong to. Stretching over 30,000 square meters, the caverns are an engineering marvel. Yet, despite their vastness, the question remains: how did they come to be? The first recorded discovery of these caverns occurred in 1992, when local farmers digging a well accidentally stumbled upon an opening that led deep into the earth. What they uncovered would baffle experts and ignite a mystery that has yet to be solved. Inside the caverns, a series of massive, perfectly symmetrical chambers are cut into the rock, each one featuring pillars that stand as if placed by an unseen hand. The walls of these chambers are smooth and almost unnaturally even, a testament to some unknown method of excavation. Each room is connected by narrow, winding tunnels, which lead explorers deeper into the heart of the labyrinth. But the real enigma of the LONGYOU Caverns lies not only in their size or structure, but in the mystery of their origin. Most scholars agree that these caves were man-made, but how could such an ancient and vast system of chambers have been constructed? The precision and scale of the carving suggest advanced techniques far beyond what would have been available at the time, tools or methods lost to history. Even the most advanced modern-day equipment struggles to replicate the craftsmanship and scale of what is found within the caverns. Dating the caverns has proven just as elusive. Estimates place their creation at somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 years ago, during a time when the region was populated by ancient Chinese cultures. but there is little to no historical record or evidence that would suggest such large-scale underground construction projects were common or even feasible during this period. What we do know is that the ancient civilizations in the area, such as the Yue people, were skilled in the arts of water management and tunnel construction, but there is no clear indication that they possessed the knowledge or tools to create something of this magnitude. Some have speculated that the LONGYOU caverns were used for religious or ceremonial purposes, perhaps serving as sacred spaces for ritualistic practices or as a kind of underground sanctuary. The vast chambers could have been used for communal gatherings, or even as burial sites for important figures, though no evidence of human remains has been discovered within the caves. Others have suggested that the caverns were built as a form of water management, perhaps to store and control water during times of flood or drought. Yet, no direct evidence links the caverns to any specific function, leaving the true purpose of the site wide open to interpretation. What makes the LONGYOU caverns even more mysterious is the fact that they were completely forgotten for centuries. Despite their grandeur and complexity, these caverns were hidden beneath the earth, their existence obscured by time and nature. It wasn't until the late 20th century that they were rediscovered, a discovery that has only deepened the mystery of their origin. How could such a monumental construction have been so thoroughly erased from memory? Various theories have emerged over the years to try to explain the purpose and origins of the LONGYOU caverns, but no single explanation has been universally accepted. Some suggest that they were part of an ancient city or complex, perhaps even a lost civilization, whose knowledge and achievements were lost to history. Could this forgotten culture have been responsible for the construction of the caverns? Or is it possible that the caverns are remnants of an entirely different kind of civilization, one that predated known history? Given the level of skill required to carve such intricate tunnels and chambers, some have even entertained the possibility that the LONGYOU caverns were the work of an advanced, ancient civilization, whose technology was lost to time, perhaps even destroyed by cataclysmic events or natural disasters. Another intriguing possibility is that the caverns were created by a culture whose knowledge was deliberately hidden, their achievements intentionally erased or obscured by subsequent civilizations. Could the caverns have been built by a forgotten dynasty or a group of people whose secrets were hidden from the world, perhaps to keep their knowledge out of the hands of rival powers? Despite the various theories, the lack of conclusive evidence leaves us with far more questions than answers. The tools used to carve the caverns have never been identified, and no clear records exist to tell us who might have created them or why. Could they be the product of an unknown culture, or even a civilization that existed long before recorded history? What purpose did they serve, and why, after all these centuries, were they forgotten and hidden away until the late 20th century? In the absence of concrete answers, some have turned to more speculative ideas. Could the LONGYOU caverns be evidence of a lost civilization that was far more advanced than we have been led to believe? Could they represent a time when humans possessed technologies that were either deliberately suppressed or lost due to some cataclysmic event? Or perhaps the caverns are part of a much larger, still undiscovered network of tunnels and underground structures, hiding knowledge that could rewrite the history of humanity. The mystery of the LONGYOU caverns, like so many others, invites us to ask fundamental questions about the past, about the civilizations that came before us, and about the knowledge that has been lost or hidden away. What truths, if any, lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? The caverns remain silent, their secrets buried deep within the stone. And as we look toward the future, we can't help but wonder, what more lies beneath the surface, waiting for the moment when we are ready to listen, and perhaps finally uncover the answers that have eluded us for so long? As we continue our journey through history's most profound enigmas, we now turn to the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro, a site whose mysteries have both intrigued and perplexed scholars for decades. Nestled in the heart of the Indus Valley, what remains of this once thriving metropolis is now buried beneath the sands of time, its ruins speaking in silent whispers about a civilization that flourished thousands of years ago, only to vanish almost as suddenly as it arose. Mohenjo-Daro, whose name translates to Mound of the Dead, was one of the great cities of the Indus Valley civilization, which thrived around 4,500 years ago. The city was a marvel of urban planning, with its grid-like streets, advanced drainage systems, and towering structures made of fired brick. It was a place where the people of the Indus Valley practiced a sophisticated way of life, with evidence of trade, agriculture, and even early forms of writing. Yet, despite the accomplishments of this civilization, Mohenjo-Daro met with an abrupt and mysterious end. One day, it simply ceased to exist in the form it once had. The reasons for its sudden demise remain one of the most compelling puzzles of the ancient world. The evidence we have suggests that the city's collapse was not due to a natural disaster, such as an earthquake or flood. Instead, the remnants of Mohenjo-Daro reveal signs of a more dramatic and cataclysmic event, an event that seems almost beyond the comprehension of the time. The most striking aspect of the ruins is the unusual pattern of destruction found within the city. Buildings that once stood tall are now reduced to rubble, and the layout of the streets and structures suggests that a sudden, violent force may have struck the city. Not only was there a marked shift in the city's architecture and infrastructure, but many of the bones discovered at the site seem to show signs of trauma, with some even showing evidence of being scorched. The remains of the city and its people tell a story of a once flourishing civilization suddenly brought to its knees. It is here that the mystery deepens. Some scholars have posited that the destruction of Mohenjo-Daro could be the result of an ancient war, one that involved a weapon so powerful it left no trace of the people who once lived there. The idea of nuclear warfare in antiquity might sound far-fetched at first, but when one examines the physical evidence found at Mohenjo-Daro, questions begin to arise. In the early 20th century, during excavations of the ruins, archaeologists discovered a strange layer of vitrified brick and pottery. Vitrification occurs when intense heat, often far greater than what could be achieved through conventional fire, causes materials to melt and fuse together. This discovery was particularly puzzling, as it seemed to suggest that the destruction of Mohenjo-Daro was not caused by fire or a simple building collapse, but by something much more powerful and catastrophic. Some researchers, drawing comparisons to the effects of nuclear radiation, have suggested that this vitrification could be the result of an ancient nuclear explosion. Supporting this theory is the discovery of human remains at Mohenjo-Daro that show signs of what some interpret as radiation exposure. Several of the skeletons found at the site exhibit unusual patterns of bone degeneration, which some have argued resemble the effects of acute radiation sickness, a condition typically associated with high doses of radiation. Additionally, the position of the bodies in which they were found, some lying in seemingly odd, almost unnatural postures, has led some theorists to speculate that the people may have been caught in the midst of a sudden, violent explosion. Though these claims are not universally accepted by the academic community, they remain a tantalizing possibility. Could it be that an ancient civilization, with knowledge and technology far beyond what we have been taught, possessed the ability to harness such devastating power? Or could these unusual findings be attributed to more conventional causes, such as a catastrophic fire or the collapse of the city's infrastructure during a period of decline? For those who support the idea of nuclear weapons in antiquity, there is another piece of evidence that is hard to ignore: the city of Mohenjo-Daro's strategic location. Situated along the banks of the Indus River, the city was well positioned to have been a critical hub for trade, culture, and power. But what if it was also the target of a rival civilization or a vengeful force using a weapon far ahead of its time? Ancient texts, such as the Vedas and other mythological writings, tell stories of gods wielding devastating weapons capable of destroying entire cities. Could these tales be metaphorical, or could they contain a kernel of truth about the devastating power used to bring down Mohenjo-Daro? And then there's the question of whether the mysterious disappearance of the Indus Valley civilization was part of a larger pattern, a lost history of powerful civilizations that rose and fell long before recorded time. Could the destruction of Mohenjo-Daro be the result of a global catastrophe, one that erased entire cultures from history? Some have proposed that this missing history could contain clues to a lost civilization that possessed knowledge and technology beyond our current understanding, an advanced society that, like Mohenjo-Daro, was ultimately undone by its own power. On the other hand, many scholars remain skeptical of the nuclear hypothesis, arguing that the signs of destruction in Mohenjo-Daro could be explained by more conventional means. It is well established that the Indus Valley civilization faced numerous challenges, including environmental changes and the eventual shifting of river courses. These factors could have contributed to the city's decline, with the population gradually abandoning the site as resources became scarce and the region became less habitable. Some point to the evidence of mass migration and suggest that the fall of Mohenjo-Daro was simply part of a broader pattern of societal collapse, one that affected multiple regions of the ancient world. Yet, even as these more plausible explanations are put forward, they cannot fully account for the peculiarities of Mohenjo-Daro's sudden end. The vitrified bricks, the skeletal remains, and the mystery of how such an advanced civilization could have disappeared so abruptly continue to defy easy answers. The question remains, what truly happened to Mohenjo-Daro? Was it the victim of an ancient, unimaginable weapon of destruction, or is the truth even more elusive than we dare to imagine? As we reflect on this ongoing enigma, one thing is certain. Mohenjo-Daro's sudden and catastrophic end remains an unsolved puzzle, an open window into a past that continues to hold its secrets close. And perhaps, in the depths of these ancient ruins, there are still truths waiting to be uncovered. Truths that could shed light on the fate of this great civilization and the forces that may have shaped its ultimate destruction. The answers may lie hidden beneath the sands of time, waiting for us to find them. As we move forward through the corridors of history's most enigmatic stories, we now find ourselves drawn to one of literature's darkest and most intriguing figures, the poet and writer Edgar Allan Poe. Known for his tales of madness, mystery, and the macabre, Poe's final days on this earth remain shrouded in uncertainty, a riddle that even his most dedicated biographers have struggled to solve. His sudden and puzzling disappearance from the world, followed by his mysterious death, has sparked endless speculation, conspiracy theories, and investigations that continue to this day. It was a quiet October evening in 1849 when Poe's journey took an abrupt turn. Just a few months earlier, he had been at the height of his creative powers, publishing some of his most famous works, such as The Fall of the House of Usher and The Telltale Heart. His poetry, filled with vivid imagery and a sense of melancholy, resonated with readers, and he had gained a reputation as one of America's most celebrated literary minds. Yet, in the days leading up to his death, Poe seemed distant, disoriented, and plagued by an unsettling series of events that no one could quite explain. On September 27, 1849, Poe left his home in Richmond, Virginia, to travel to Philadelphia. The purpose of his trip remains unclear, but it was rumored that he was planning to secure a publisher for his work and perhaps begin a new chapter in his career. He made stops along the way, but when he arrived in Baltimore on October 3rd, something strange began to unfold. Poe was found, delirious and incoherent, wandering the streets of the city in a state of extreme confusion. He was taken to a hospital where he was found to be in a dire condition. His clothes were disheveled, and his mind was clouded, as if he were gripped by some unseen force. Despite the best efforts of his doctors, Poe's condition only worsened. He was unable to explain what had happened to him, and his words, when he could speak at all, were jumbled and nonsensical. "I am a poor man," he reportedly said. "I have no home." Some sources claim that Poe uttered the name Reynolds repeatedly, but no one knows who this person might have been. In his final days, Poe was locked in a state of feverish delirium, unable to communicate any clear thoughts or explanations for the events that had led him to that point. On October 7th, 1849, just 4 days after being found, Poe succumbed to his mysterious illness. His death, at the age of 40, was officially attributed to congestion of the brain, a diagnosis that was common at the time but is now regarded as vague and inconclusive. Even in his final moments, Poe's enigmatic nature persisted. His last words, if any, have never been definitively recorded. Some accounts suggest that he whispered, "Lord, help my poor soul," while others claim he simply slipped into unconsciousness, never to awaken again. But this explanation has always felt incomplete, as if the true cause of Poe's death remains hidden just beyond our grasp. Was he simply a victim of illness, as his doctors claimed? Or is there something more at play here? Something darker, more sinister? Theories abound, each one offering a glimpse into a different possible truth. One theory suggests that Poe's death may have been the result of a violent attack. Some have speculated that he was the victim of a robbery gone wrong, with the assailants leaving him in the streets, battered and unconscious. Others point to the possibility of Poe being involved in a political conspiracy, citing the strange circumstances of his final days and the cryptic nature of his last words. Could he have been targeted for reasons beyond mere chance, perhaps because of something he knew or something he had written? There are also those who believe that Poe's death was connected to a more personal and tragic cause, his struggle with alcoholism. Poe's life was marked by bouts of deep despair, and he was known to drink heavily, often to the point of excess. Some biographers have argued that Poe's decline in his final days was the result of alcohol poisoning or withdrawal, both of which could explain the confusion and delirium that he exhibited in the hours leading up to his death. The physical symptoms of alcohol withdrawal can mimic many of the signs that Poe exhibited, such as agitation, confusion, and hallucinations. Was Poe's fate the result of his own demons? His internal battle with the bottle, which he had tried to overcome but ultimately could not? Yet, even this explanation leaves unanswered questions. Poe had struggled with alcoholism throughout his life. But why would he fall into such a severe and sudden decline just before his trip to Philadelphia? Why would he seem so suddenly and violently affected, as if something had triggered an immediate collapse of his health? And what of the mysterious name Reynolds that he muttered in his final moments? Could this person hold the key to understanding the last days of Poe's life? There are even more speculative theories that delve into the realm of the supernatural, as one might expect given the author's own fascination with death and the afterlife. Some believe that Poe's death was the result of an occult ritual gone awry, a final chapter in a life filled with strange obsessions and an affinity for dark, otherworldly themes. Could Poe have unwittingly fallen victim to the very forces he so often wrote about? Forces that defy logic and evade comprehension? These theories, while speculative, nonetheless tap into the sense of mystery that has always surrounded Poe's life and works. Then there's the possibility that Poe's death was caused by a more ordinary, though still mysterious, medical condition. Some have suggested that he may have suffered from a rare form of rabies, which could account for his confusion, agitation, and inability to communicate. Rabies can sometimes cause a person to enter a state of delirium and agitation, much like the symptoms Poe displayed in the days before his death. However, without conclusive evidence of an animal bite or exposure, this remains just another theory, one that adds to the puzzle without solving it. Poe's death, like much of his life, remains enigmatic. The circumstances surrounding his final days are as elusive as the meanings behind his works. Was it a tragic end brought on by his personal demons and addictions, or was it something far more mysterious, an event tied to forces beyond our understanding? Theories will continue to swirl, but the truth may be lost to time like so many other great mysteries. As we ponder Poe's final hours, we are left with more questions than answers. The silence surrounding his death, much like the dark themes of his stories, leaves us to wonder. What happened to the man who crafted some of the most haunting tales of terror ever written? And, perhaps more unsettling, what truths remain hidden beneath the shadow of his untimely death, waiting to be uncovered? The story of Edgar Allan Poe may never be fully understood, but it will continue to haunt us, as all great mysteries do. As we continue our journey through history's unexplained and unsolved mysteries, we now turn our attention to one of the most intriguing and elusive enigmas of the ancient world: the disappearance of the 9th Roman Legion. The story of this legendary military unit has captured the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and armchair detectives alike for centuries. What happened to the 9th Legion, and why did it vanish so completely, leaving behind only fragments of its once mighty presence? The answers are buried in the sands of time, with clues scattered across distant lands, but none of them fully reveal the fate of this storied legion. In the early years of the 1st century AD, the Roman Empire was a juggernaut, expanding its reach across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. At the heart of Rome's military might was the legion, the backbone of its army, a force of highly trained soldiers capable of crushing enemies and maintaining control over vast territories. The 9th Legion, or Legio IX Hispana, was one of Rome's most formidable and respected legions. It earned its reputation during the conquest of Hispania, modern-day Spain, and played a pivotal role in numerous military campaigns throughout the empire. But despite its early successes, the 9th Legion would eventually find itself at the center of one of history's greatest military mysteries. The last confirmed record of the 9th Legion dates back to the year 108 AD, when it was stationed in Britain, a province on the fringes of the empire. At this time, the Roman presence in Britain was still in its early stages, with much of the northern and western territories remaining untamed and rebellious. The 9th Legion was tasked with helping to subdue the native Celtic tribes in the north, specifically in what is now Scotland. The Romans had already built a network of forts and roads, but the challenge of fully subjugating the region remained. It was in this volatile environment that the 9th Legion seemingly disappeared without a trace. The most compelling piece of evidence linking the 9th Legion's fate to Scotland comes from the ancient historian Tacitus. In his writings, Tacitus refers to a campaign in which the 9th Legion was engaged in an effort to conquer the northern reaches of Britain, but he offers no further details. In fact, there is a noticeable absence of information regarding the Legion after this point. The silence surrounding the 9th Legion's disappearance has led to countless theories, each one attempting to explain what happened to these soldiers who seemingly vanished off the face of the earth. One of the most widely accepted explanations is that the 9th Legion was wiped out in a catastrophic battle against the native Celtic tribes of northern Britain, possibly in a confrontation near the Roman fort of Eburacum, modern-day York. According to this theory, the Legion was ambushed by a coalition of tribes, overwhelmed by their numbers, and ultimately destroyed. The theory suggests that the Romans, underestimating the fierce resistance they faced in the north, were caught off guard, leading to the complete annihilation of the 9th Legion. The silence surrounding the Legion's fate in subsequent records could be attributed to the Roman Empire's desire to downplay the loss, fearing that it would embolden rebellious provinces and weaken Rome's image as an indomitable military power. Yet, even this explanation leaves much to be desired. There is no clear archaeological evidence to confirm that the 9th Legion was truly destroyed in battle. No mass graves or other markers of such a devastating defeat have been found in the area where the Legion was last known to be stationed. Furthermore, the absence of detailed Roman records concerning the fate of the 9th Legion is itself peculiar. The Romans were meticulous record keepers, especially when it came to military matters. It seems unlikely that the disappearance of such a prominent legion would go entirely unmentioned in the historical record. This lack of evidence has led to a range of alternative theories. One of the more speculative explanations suggests that the 9th Legion did not suffer defeat at the hands of the Celtic tribes, but rather was recalled to Rome for a new mission. According to this theory, the Legion was sent to fight in another theater of war, possibly in the east, or even in the troubled provinces of the empire. However, this theory raises its own set of questions. If the 9th Legion had been reassigned to a different campaign, why did it disappear so completely from the historical record? And why would such a large and well-documented force be relegated to obscurity in the aftermath of its deployment? Another theory posits that the 9th Legion was simply disbanded and its soldiers redistributed across other military units. This would explain why there is no record of a major defeat, as the Legion could have quietly ceased to exist as a distinct entity. In this case, the soldiers of the 9th Legion would have continued to serve in other parts of the empire, but under different banners. The lack of any definitive record could be a reflection of the empire's routine reorganization of its military forces, an event so common that it might not have merited a special note in the annals of Roman history. But even if this explanation is plausible, it still leaves us with the question: why did the 9th Legion's disappearance become so shrouded in mystery? More fringe theories have proposed even more fantastical explanations. Some suggest that the 9th Legion was the victim of a more supernatural fate, perhaps being cursed by the gods or swept away by an ancient, unexplained force. In this vein, the disappearance of the 9th Legion is viewed as part of a broader pattern of Roman military failures or divine retribution. These theories, while captivating, are speculative and largely unsupported by historical evidence. Yet, they tap into the deep sense of mystery that surrounds the Legion's fate. Perhaps one of the most intriguing possibilities is that the 9th Legion was absorbed into the Celtic tribes it had been sent to defeat. According to some theories, the Legion's soldiers could have been captured and assimilated by the native populations, who, recognizing their skill and organization, incorporated them into their own ranks. This theory, while tantalizing, is difficult to prove, as it would suggest that the Roman soldiers, once considered the mightiest fighting force in the world, willingly joined their enemies. It's an unsettling thought, but it offers another layer of complexity to the already perplexing puzzle. Whatever the truth may be, the disappearance of the 9th Roman Legion remains one of history's great unsolved mysteries. Its fate is hidden somewhere within the ancient lands of Britain, its soldiers lost to time, its legacy buried in the shadows of history. The questions linger. Was the 9th Legion destroyed in battle? Was it reassigned, restructured, or absorbed into another military unit? Or was something far stranger at play? Something beyond our current understanding of history and warfare? The answers, if they ever emerge, may reveal not only the fate of the Ninth Legion, but also deeper insights into the nature of the Roman Empire itself. For now, however, the disappearance of the Ninth Roman Legion remains one of the most enigmatic and unresolved mysteries of the ancient world. As we continue our exploration of history's most perplexing and unresolved mysteries, we now turn to a chilling episode from the ancient world, a story that has baffled historians and archaeologists for centuries. It is the tale of Cambyses II, the Persian king whose army vanished into the sands of the Egyptian desert, leaving behind no trace of its passage and no explanation for its fate. The disappearance of this mighty force, which included thousands of soldiers, remains one of the most haunting and enigmatic events of antiquity. What happened to Cambyses II's army? Was it a military disaster, a natural catastrophe, or something far stranger? In the year 525 BC, Cambyses II, the son of the famous Cyrus the Great, embarked on a campaign to conquer Egypt. This was no small feat. Egypt, an ancient and powerful civilization, had long resisted foreign domination, but under the leadership of Cambyses, Persia had already proven its might, defeating the Babylonians and establishing one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. His invasion of Egypt was a carefully planned military operation, designed to solidify Persian control over the eastern Mediterranean and extend the empire's reach into Africa. The Persian army, led by Cambyses himself, was a force to be reckoned with, numerous and well-equipped, with soldiers, chariots, and cavalry. After a series of battles, Cambyses' forces swiftly captured Memphis, the Egyptian capital. The pharaoh, Psamtik III, was defeated, and Egypt fell under Persian control. However, Cambyses' ambitions didn't end there. Driven by a desire to conquer the vast and mysterious land of the Egyptian oasis, he turned his attention to the temple of Amun at Siwa, a revered site in the Libyan desert, known for its oracle. Cambyses' intention was to seize control of the oracle and further humiliate the gods of Egypt, solidifying his power over the land. What transpired next, however, remains shrouded in mystery. Ancient texts recount a disastrous expedition, one that would end in the complete disappearance of Cambyses' army. The most detailed account comes from the Greek historian Herodotus, who tells the story of how, in 524 BC, Cambyses sent a massive force, reported to number anywhere between 50,000 to 100,000 men, to cross the treacherous desert and reach the oracle of Amun. The army was tasked with marching across the Libyan desert, a vast expanse of scorching sands and shifting dunes, known for its harsh conditions and lack of water. According to Herodotus, the army began its journey across the desert with high hopes of reaching the temple at Siwa. But as the days passed, the harsh realities of the desert began to take their toll. The men struggled against the oppressive heat, their supplies running low and their morale weakening. The desert, a vast and unforgiving expanse, seemed to swallow them whole, leaving no trace of their passage. Despite the severity of the conditions, they pressed on, desperate to fulfill their mission. At some point during the march, the Persian army encountered a powerful sandstorm, described by Herodotus as one so violent that it buried the entire force in the desert. The storm, a force of nature, was said to have consumed the soldiers and their equipment, leaving nothing behind but shifting dunes. Not a single man survived. The army, once so vast and unstoppable, was swallowed by the desert and disappeared from history without a trace. Herodotus' account is vivid and dramatic, but it also raises questions. How could such a large force simply vanish without any trace of its existence? Was the army truly obliterated by a sandstorm, as Herodotus suggests, or is there more to the story? Could the Persian army have been wiped out in a different way, or is the explanation even more complex? One widely accepted theory posits that the army's disappearance was due to the treacherous conditions of the desert. The Libyan desert is notoriously inhospitable, and it is entirely possible that the soldiers, deprived of food and water, succumbed to the extreme conditions. A sandstorm, such as the one described by Herodotus, could have further disoriented the troops, pushing them off course and leading them into a fatal and irreversible situation. Some scholars believe that the army became lost in the endless expanse of sand and was scattered by the storm, leading to their slow demise one by one. Over time, the army's remains would have been buried under the desert, erased from history, leaving nothing behind but the occasional fragment of armor or weaponry, all but forgotten beneath the shifting sands. But this explanation, though plausible, doesn't entirely satisfy the mystery. After all, the Persian Empire was not a naive or inexperienced force. Cambyses II's army was well equipped and well trained for campaigns in difficult terrain. The soldiers were seasoned veterans, accustomed to fighting in harsh conditions. Could they have been so unprepared for the desert that they failed to take the necessary precautions, especially given the formidable reputation of the Persian military? There are also alternative theories that challenge the notion of a simple natural disaster. Some scholars have suggested that the army may have been ambushed and destroyed by hostile forces in the desert, perhaps nomadic tribes or other groups who resented the Persian invasion of Egypt. This theory proposes that the soldiers, weakened by the desert and cut off from reinforcements, fell victim to an attack that overwhelmed them before they could reach their destination. In this scenario, the disappearance of the army might not have been the result of natural forces, but of a deliberate and coordinated assault by enemies of the Persian Empire. Another intriguing theory ventures into the realm of the supernatural. In some interpretations of Herodotus's account, the storm is not seen as a mere natural occurrence, but as an omen or punishment from the gods themselves. This theory holds that the army was punished for Cambyses' arrogance and disrespect towards the Egyptian gods. His invasion of Egypt had already upset the divine order, and the gods, in their anger, sent the storm to destroy his army. This interpretation suggests that Cambyses' efforts to conquer Egypt, symbolized by his conquest of the Oracle of Amun, might have provoked forces beyond human comprehension, leading to the annihilation of his men. The concept of divine retribution is a recurring theme in ancient histories, and the disappearance of Cambyses' army may be seen as the ultimate consequence of defying the gods. Yet, despite the various theories, one thing remains clear. The army's fate is a mystery that has defied resolution for millennia. No definitive archaeological evidence has been uncovered to explain what happened to the soldiers. The desert, as unforgiving as it is vast, seems to have swallowed their story whole, leaving only the faintest echoes behind. Were they destroyed by a natural disaster, lost to the desert forever? Or is there a deeper, more elusive explanation hidden in the sands of time, one that we have yet to uncover? As we reflect on this enduring mystery, we are left with more questions than answers. The disappearance of Cambyses II's army remains one of the great riddles of ancient history, an event that continues to captivate and perplex those who seek to understand the past. What truths might still lie buried beneath the sands, waiting for the day when they are finally brought to light? And will we ever know the full story behind the vanishing of Cambyses II's army, or is it destined to remain an unanswered enigma? As we drift further into history's most enigmatic mysteries, we now turn our gaze to one of the most iconic and enduring monuments of the ancient world, the Great Pyramid of Giza. A marvel of engineering, a symbol of ancient Egypt's power, and a structure that has stood for over 4,000 years, the pyramid has fascinated and bewildered scholars, archaeologists, and curious minds for generations. But even in this modern age, with all of our technology and expertise, there remain aspects of the pyramid that continue to elude us. Among these is the mystery of its hidden chambers, secret spaces concealed within the very stone of the pyramid itself, which may hold answers to questions we have yet to ask. The Great Pyramid, also known as the Pyramid of Khufu or Cheops, stands as a testament to the extraordinary achievements of the ancient Egyptians. Rising 481 feet above the desert floor, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. It is composed of millions of stone blocks, each weighing several tons, and its construction remains one of the most impressive feats of ancient engineering. But despite its grandeur and the centuries of study it has undergone, the pyramid still holds secrets hidden deep within its core. One of the most compelling and enduring mysteries of the Great Pyramid revolves around the so-called hidden chambers. These are spaces believed to be concealed within the pyramid, their existence suspected, but their exact locations unknown. Over the years, numerous theories have emerged regarding these chambers, with some speculating that they may contain valuable treasures, while others suggest they could hold the key to understanding the true purpose of the pyramid itself. The first hints of hidden chambers inside the Great Pyramid emerged as early as the 19th century, when explorers and researchers began to study the internal structure of the pyramid. In the 1800s, British Egyptologist Sir William Flinders Petrie, one of the first to extensively survey the pyramid, noted peculiarities in the internal passages and chambers. While the pyramid is traditionally said to have three main chambers, the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and the Grand Gallery, Petrie observed that there might be additional, undiscovered spaces lurking beneath the surface. But it wasn't until the 20th century, with advances in technology, that the mystery would deepen even further. In 1954, the Egyptian archaeologist and engineer Zahi Hawass would embark on the task of unearthing the secrets of the Great Pyramid, using modern methods to peer into its hidden recesses. Hawass and others found evidence of a number of unexplained anomalies within the pyramid's interior. For instance, the exact purpose of the Grand Gallery remains unclear. Its impressive sloping walls and complex design suggest that it might have served a function far beyond simple decoration. But perhaps the most tantalizing discovery came in the 1990s, when a team of researchers detected unusual cavities within the pyramid using advanced scanning techniques like ground-penetrating radar and muon tomography. Muon tomography, a relatively new method that measures cosmic particles called muons, revealed a series of anomalies in the pyramid's structure, unexpected empty spaces that didn't align with the known chambers. These muon voids hinted at hidden areas, suggesting that the pyramid might contain chambers beyond the three that are known. While the team could not definitively prove their existence, the presence of these voids raised the possibility that the pyramid was not as simple as it first appeared. So, what exactly might these hidden chambers contain? Some speculate that they could be treasure rooms, filled with priceless artifacts or sacred objects from the time of the pyramid's construction. After all, the ancient Egyptians believed the pyramids were gateways to the afterlife, and many pharaohs were buried with extravagant grave goods to accompany them into eternity. It is not beyond reason to imagine that the Great Pyramid might have once held such treasures. Yet, as no direct evidence has been found to confirm this, it remains a theory, though one that many find compelling given the pyramid's function as a tomb. Others suggest that these chambers might have a more mystical or spiritual purpose, tied to the pyramid's original design and the ancient Egyptians' understanding of the cosmos. The pyramid itself is aligned with incredible precision to the cardinal directions, and its internal structure is thought to be an embodiment of the Egyptians' sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and geometry. Could these hidden chambers serve as part of a larger ritualistic or symbolic structure? Were they designed not to hold physical objects, but to fulfill a greater metaphysical role, perhaps related to the pharaoh's journey in the afterlife? Further compounding the mystery is the question of how these chambers were hidden in the first place. If they were built intentionally, what purpose did their concealment serve? Why go to such lengths to hide chambers within a structure so monumental? Some researchers have speculated that the hidden chambers were designed as part of the pyramid's intricate, symbolic architecture, meant to guide the soul of the pharaoh through the afterlife. Others have suggested that they might have been hidden to prevent grave robbers from accessing sacred objects, or to safeguard the secrets of the pyramid's construction from outsiders. While speculation runs rampant, hard evidence remains elusive. No archaeological team has yet managed to access these hidden spaces directly. Some believe that the use of modern technology, like muon tomography, could eventually lead to a breakthrough, allowing us to see into these chambers without disturbing the structure. However, any attempt to actually explore the pyramid's interior further raises its own set of challenges. Excavating within such an ancient and fragile monument could risk damaging the pyramid, which has already withstood centuries of wear and erosion. The balance between discovery and preservation remains a delicate one. This brings us to the most intriguing question of all. What do the hidden chambers, if they exist, truly mean for our understanding of the Great Pyramid? Are they simply the remnants of an ancient culture's grandeur, a testament to their engineering prowess? Or do they carry deeper meaning, perhaps unlocking the mysteries of a civilization that remains, to this day, far ahead of our understanding in some respects? Could they contain secrets that might reshape the narrative of Egyptian history, revealing new insights into the spiritual, astronomical, or even technological knowledge of the ancient world? As we continue to probe the depths of the Great Pyramid, we are left with more questions than answers. The discovery of hidden chambers would undoubtedly be a monumental breakthrough in our understanding of the pyramid, but the question remains: what are they hiding and why? The mystery of the Great Pyramid is far from over. Even as technology advances and new techniques allow us to peer deeper into the heart of this ancient marvel, the truth behind its hidden chambers may still be waiting, buried beneath the surface, just beyond our reach. The Great Pyramid stands as an enigmatic sentinel over the sands of Egypt, guarding its secrets with an unwavering silence. Perhaps one day, when the time is right, we will uncover what lies within its depths. Until then, the mystery of the hidden chambers remains, an enduring riddle that continues to fascinate and beckon us toward discovery. In the remote and arid expanses of Western China lies a discovery that has captivated the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and anyone with a curiosity about ancient cultures. In the TARIM Basin, amid the desolate stretches of the Taklamakan Desert, a series of mummies centuries, if not millennia, old, have been uncovered in an extraordinary state of preservation. These mummies, some of them remarkably well preserved, have baffled researchers with their appearance, clothing, and the implications they hold for our understanding of ancient civilization in the far reaches of Central Asia. The TARIM mummies, as they are called, were discovered in the 20th century, primarily from the 1990s onward. Excavations have unearthed dozens of these ancient remains, some dating back over 4,000 years. These individuals, who were buried in the arid sands of the desert, have been preserved in a way that defies expectations. Their bodies, wrapped in woolen cloth and garments that suggest an advanced understanding of weaving and textile arts, stand in stark contrast to the often perceived notion that life in this region, at that time, was primitive and nomadic. As you stand on the edges of the Taklamakan Desert, it's hard to imagine that beneath the shifting dunes lies a mystery so complex, so intertwined with the movements of ancient peoples, that it has taken centuries to begin uncovering even the most basic details of these lost lives. The dry climate of the desert has acted as an unexpected preservation chamber, mummifying these people with an eerie degree of detail. Skin, hair, and even facial features remain visible, as if frozen in time. Some of the mummies, known as the Uyghur mummies because of their similarities to modern-day ethnic groups in the region, appear almost European in their features: blonde hair, fair skin, and even blue eyes. This has raised a host of questions that extend far beyond the simple idea of ancient burial practices. Why did these mummies appear so different from what one would expect in a region so distant from Europe? Were these individuals part of a now-forgotten culture, or were they foreign travelers, far removed from the peoples of ancient China? And what was their connection to the broader networks of trade, migration, and cultural exchange that we know existed in this vast region of the world? One of the most puzzling aspects of the TARIM mummies is the distinctiveness of their burial customs. The mummies were typically buried in a fetal position, a common practice among many ancient cultures. However, their tombs also contained objects of considerable interest. Intricate textiles, elaborately decorated pottery, wooden masks, and even dried fruits and grains. These artifacts suggest that the people buried here had a rich, complex culture, one that had access to trade networks stretching across vast distances. In fact, the discovery of the mummies in such a remote and inhospitable place raises the possibility of a long-forgotten civilization, or at least a far-reaching network of cultures and peoples that spanned from the Western world to the ancient Chinese Empire. The Tarim Basin itself lies at a crossroads of ancient trade routes, including the Silk Road, which connected east and west through Central Asia. Was the presence of these mummies an indication of cultural diffusion, or was this region home to an independent people whose origins remain a mystery? Theories abound about who these people were and where they came from. Some researchers suggest that the Tarim mummies were part of the Tocharians, an ancient people whose language, a branch of the Indo-European family, has been tentatively identified in written records found throughout the region. These people are believed to have spoken a language related to ancient Celtic and Germanic tongues. This idea fits neatly into the larger narrative of migration and cultural exchange across Central Asia. It suggests that these mummies might not be indigenous to the region, but rather part of a group of travelers or settlers who came from the West, possibly from Europe or the steppes of Siberia. Yet, not everyone agrees with this theory. Some scholars argue that these mummies might represent an earlier, distinct wave of migration into the Tarim Basin, one that predates the Tocharians and any Indo-European influences. This theory suggests that the people who inhabited the Tarim Basin during the time of the mummies could have been part of a population entirely separate from the mainstream cultural flows we associate with the Silk Road or the great empires of China and India. This would place them in a far more enigmatic context. Were they the remnants of an indigenous population that adapted to the changing environment of Central Asia, or were they part of a lost civilization whose ties to the modern world have been completely erased? And then, there are those who posit more speculative and fringe theories. Some have pointed to the unique physical features of the mummies, especially their hair and skin color, as evidence of an even more unusual scenario. Could these people have come from a distant, unknown civilization that we have yet to uncover? Or, perhaps more controversially, could they be evidence of extraterrestrial contact or ancient visitors from another part of the world, such as the Mediterranean or the Near East? While such theories are not widely accepted by mainstream historians, they certainly capture the imagination. highlighting just how puzzling the TARIM mummies remain. Even more fascinating is the continuing mystery surrounding the genetic origins of the people buried in the TARIM basin. Recent genetic studies have uncovered evidence that suggests a diverse mix of ethnic backgrounds. While many of the individuals show markers of European descent, others appear to have a genetic link to East Asian populations. This suggests that the people of the TARIM basin were not an isolated group, but may have been part of a complex web of interactions between different peoples of the ancient world. Were these mummies part of a larger diaspora that spanned both the East and West, a group whose cultural influence has since been lost to the sands of time? Despite all the evidence, the question of who these people were, where they came from, and why they lived in such isolation remains unanswered. Each new discovery, whether in the form of a new mummy or an ancient artifact, only deepens the mystery. With each new piece of evidence, the story of the TARIM mummies becomes even more elusive. As we reflect on these incredible discoveries, one truth stands out. There are many layers to the past that we have yet to uncover. The mystery of the TARIM mummies is but one example of how much of our history remains hidden in the desert, beneath the sand and stone. Could there be other mummies out there, waiting to reveal more secrets about the people who once lived in this forgotten part of the world? And what might we discover if we continue to dig deeper into the enigmatic past of the TARIM basin? Perhaps the answers are buried somewhere, just beyond the reach of our understanding. As we journey further into the heart of history's unsolved mysteries, we find ourselves standing at the precipice of an ancient enigma, an object that challenges the very idea of what we thought we knew about our distant ancestors. This object, remarkable in its form and its age, has intrigued scholars and archaeologists for over a century. The Shigar idol, the oldest wooden statue ever discovered, continues to baffle researchers with its profound significance, its mysterious origins, and the questions it raises about the people who created it. Imagine, if you will, stepping into the cold, damp expanse of a Siberian peat bog, where the air is thick with the scent of decay, and the ground is soft underfoot. It is here, in 1894, that a team of construction workers, digging for peat to fuel the fires of a nearby village, stumbled upon something extraordinary. At first, they could hardly believe their eyes. Partially preserved within the muck, rising from the depths of time, was a wooden figure, standing tall, yet weathered and worn by the centuries. What they had unearthed was no ordinary artifact, but the Shigar idol, a mysterious statue that would challenge everything we thought we knew about early human civilization. The figure itself is striking, with a long, slender body, intricately carved with symbols and patterns that seem almost too advanced for its time. At 9.5 feet tall, the statue's scale is imposing, its dark, enigmatic form standing as a silent witness to a long-forgotten past. The wood is not smooth, but jagged and fragmented, yet the carvings etched into its surface reveal a depth of artistry that suggests a culture far more sophisticated than we might expect from a people living some 11,000 years ago. At the end of the last ice age, long before the rise of written history or advanced civilizations. What makes the Shigar idol even more fascinating is its age. Carbon dating of the statue has placed its creation around 10,000 to 11,000 years ago, making it not only one of the oldest wooden objects ever discovered, but also one of the oldest known human-made artifacts in the world. Yet, it is not just its age that provokes so much intrigue, but the mysterious circumstances surrounding its creation and purpose. Why would ancient peoples in Siberia craft such a large, intricately carved figure from wood, an organic material so prone to decay, yet preserve it for millennia in a bog that should have consumed it entirely? The idol's shape is not the only thing that is enigmatic. Its carvings, deep, purposeful lines, spirals, and geometric patterns suggest a complex symbolic language, one that could represent something far beyond mere decoration. These symbols are unlike any that have been definitively deciphered, and many researchers believe they may hold deep spiritual or ritualistic meaning, perhaps related to the worship of deities or the veneration of ancestors. The sheer level of detail in the carvings is remarkable, and it raises a number of questions about the people who created it. What did these markings represent? Were they related to an ancient belief system? Was the idol a form of communication, a record of something more than just human existence, a glimpse into a world of thought and belief that has long since vanished? Despite the advances in archaeology and technology, we have only scratched the surface in understanding the true purpose and meaning of the Shigir idol. Early theories posited that it may have been a religious or ritualistic figure, created for ceremonial purposes. The idol's large size suggests it was meant to stand out, perhaps as a central focus of worship or as a marker of some kind of sacred space. Some have even speculated that the figure may have been used in shamanistic practices, its carvings representing the mystical journey between the physical world and the spiritual realm. Much like other ancient cultures use their art and icons to represent their connection to the divine. But beyond these more traditional theories, there are those who have offered more speculative explanations for the idol's existence. Could it be evidence of an advanced civilization that predated known human societies by thousands of years? Some fringe theorists believe the Shigir idol may be a relic from a lost civilization, one that possessed knowledge or technologies that we have yet to uncover. Given the complexity of its design and the symbolic nature of its carvings, some wonder if the idol could have served as a kind of ancient code, a key to unlocking secrets of forgotten knowledge or even an early form of writing. Others have suggested that the idol may be connected to the cosmic or astronomical. Its geometric patterns could align with certain celestial events, such as the movement of stars, the phases of the moon, or seasonal cycles, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of the natural world. Was this wooden figure a representation of the cosmos, a symbol of the universe's eternal cycles, crafted by a culture that saw their connection to the stars as essential to their identity? Could the idol be a kind of guide, offering spiritual guidance or protection for those who encountered it? But while these ideas are compelling, none of them offer definitive answers. We simply do not know the exact purpose of the Shigir idol, or why it was created with such care and reverence. Was it meant to last through the ages, to be preserved for future generations? Or was it intended to serve a specific purpose for the people who crafted it, a purpose lost to time? Adding to the mystery is the fact that, despite its extraordinary age, the Shigir idol was not a singular discovery. Several fragments of similar wooden statues and carvings have been found in the region, suggesting that the culture responsible for these works may have been widespread, with a rich tradition of artistic expression and spiritual practice. What was the role of these figures in the broader context of the society that created them? How did they shape the worldview of the people who carved them, and what was the broader significance of these objects in their daily lives? In the years since the idol was discovered, research into its origins has been ongoing, with scientists and archaeologists continually trying to piece together the fragments of this ancient culture. The bog in which it was found preserved it remarkably well, but as with any ancient artifact, time and environmental factors continue to erode the mysteries it holds. The more we learn about the Shigir idol, the more we realize how little we truly know about the ancient peoples who created it, and how much of their world remains hidden from us. Perhaps the most profound aspect of the Shigir idol is not simply its age or craftsmanship, but the questions it raises about human history itself. It stands as a reminder of just how much has been lost over the millennia. The knowledge, beliefs, and ways of life that once defined entire cultures now reduced to fragments that we can only begin to comprehend. What other secrets lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? And what might we learn about ourselves, if only we could decipher the messages left behind by our distant ancestors? The Shiger idol remains a mystery, a silent sentinel from the past that continues to beckon us forward, urging us to seek the truth hidden within its carved wooden surface. And perhaps, as we look closer, we may yet find that the answers lie not only in the idol itself, but in the very questions it raises. Questions that continue to echo across time. As we continue to explore the long-forgotten corners of Egypt's ancient landscape, we find ourselves descending into the mysterious depths of the Saqqara necropolis. Here, amidst the vast desert, surrounded by the ruins of temples, tombs, and monuments, lies one of the most intriguing and enigmatic sites in all of Egyptology, the Serapeum. This subterranean complex, hidden beneath the ground of Saqqara, holds secrets that have baffled archaeologists and historians for centuries. The Serapeum is a grand tomb complex, believed to have been constructed during the reign of Pharaoh Amenemhat II of the 12th dynasty, roughly 4,000 years ago. However, it is not just the tombs of pharaohs and nobles that make this place extraordinary. It is the presence of colossal stone sarcophagi that dominate the landscape. These massive stone boxes, some weighing several tons, are scattered across a series of vast subterranean chambers, their origins and purpose an ongoing mystery. The first sight of the Serapeum is nothing short of awe-inspiring. Imagine descending into a deep, dimly lit passageway carved from solid rock, your footsteps echoing as you move deeper into the heart of the tomb. The air is thick with the weight of history, and the flickering light from torches casts long shadows against the walls. You can feel the cold stone beneath your feet as you move deeper into the labyrinthine corridors. And then, ahead, you see them, the enormous stone sarcophagi. These massive boxes, each made of heavy granite, appear almost impossibly large for the tombs of ordinary people. Their sheer scale and the precision with which they were crafted raises immediate questions. Who could have created such colossal structures, and why? Each sarcophagus is a marvel of engineering. Some weigh up to 70 tons and are crafted from solid blocks of granite, a material that was quarried miles away and transported with great difficulty. The skill involved in shaping these massive stones with such precision is astonishing, given that these tombs were constructed long before the advent of advanced tools or machinery. Yet, as extraordinary as these tombs are, what makes them even more mysterious is the absence of human remains. Despite the grandeur of the Serapeum and its evident role as a burial site, the sarcophagi appear to have been empty when they were discovered. The mystery deepens further when you consider the scale of these tombs. Why create such vast stone structures only to leave them empty? Theories surrounding the purpose of the Serapeum and its massive stone tombs are varied, with no consensus among scholars. Some believe that the Serapeum was the final resting place for sacred bulls, specifically the Apis bull, which was considered a manifestation of the god Ptah. The Apis bull was revered in ancient Egyptian religion, and when one died, it was embalmed and buried with great ceremony. The site at Saqqara contains numerous burial chambers that are believed to have been dedicated to these bulls, with each sarcophagus potentially serving as the tomb for a single Apis bull. This theory is supported by the discovery of inscriptions and artifacts found nearby that suggest the tombs were associated with the veneration of these sacred animals. However, this theory does not fully explain the sheer scale and size of the sarcophagi. If these were merely burial tombs for bulls, why would they be made from such enormous blocks of granite? Why the intricate carvings and the immense labor required to construct them? These questions have led some researchers to explore alternative theories, delving into the possibility that the Serapeum had a far more complex role in ancient Egyptian society than simply being a burial ground for sacred animals. One fringe theory suggests that the Serapeum may have served as a repository for lost knowledge or sacred relics. The size and sophistication of the tombs, as well as their remote location beneath the surface, might point to a deeper, more mysterious purpose. Could the tombs have housed important artifacts, sacred texts, or other objects of immense power that were meant to be protected and hidden from the world? The idea that the Serapeum may have been designed to guard something more than just the remains of sacred animals adds another layer of intrigue to the site. There are also those who propose that the Serapeum's colossal stone sarcophagi were not simply tombs, but functional objects. Could these massive stone boxes have served as some form of energy storage or machinery? The precision with which they were carved and the seemingly deliberate nature of their design have led some to speculate that they may have had a technological purpose, perhaps connected to ancient Egyptian understanding of energy, sound, or magnetism. While there is no concrete evidence to support this idea, it raises the tantalizing possibility that the ancient Egyptians may have possessed knowledge that was far ahead of its time, knowledge that was intentionally hidden or lost over the centuries. But perhaps the most puzzling aspect of the Saqqara Serapeum is the ongoing mystery of its discovery. The tombs and sarcophagi were not found in the way one might expect from a typical archaeological site. They were uncovered in the 19th century, not through careful excavation, but almost by accident, as workers unearthed the site while digging in the area. The fact that these colossal stone sarcophagi lay undisturbed for so long, hidden beneath the ground in a place that seemed to have no reason for being secret, only adds to the aura of mystery that surrounds them. As researchers continue to study the Saqqara Serapeum, many questions remain unanswered. Why were these enormous tombs built? Who were they meant to honor, and why were they left empty? What was the purpose of the grand tombs, and what did they represent in the broader context of ancient Egyptian religion and society? Some have even suggested that the answers to these questions lie beyond the scope of conventional archaeology, perhaps hidden in the lost traditions of ancient Egypt, waiting to be uncovered once again. As we stand before these colossal stone sarcophagi, we are reminded of the many mysteries that continue to elude us. The Serapeum, with its massive stone tombs and its haunting silence, serves as a reminder that there are still vast stretches of history yet to be understood. Could the truth behind the Saqqara Serapeum be something far more complex than we can imagine? Or are we simply looking at an ancient mystery that may never be fully explained? The answers may remain buried beneath the sands of time, waiting for someone, or something, to finally unlock their secrets. As the quiet, expansive landscape of early America stretches before us, the name Meriwether Lewis stands out, a figure whose legacy is immortalized in the annals of exploration. He is remembered as one half of the duo behind the Lewis and Clark expedition, a journey that charted the vast, uncharted wilderness of the western United States in the early 19th century. Yet, as much as Lewis is celebrated for his pioneering role in one of the most significant explorations in American history, his final days remain shrouded in an unsettling mystery. The story of Lewis's death is one that has intrigued historians for over 2 centuries, with lingering questions about the circumstances surrounding it. On October 11, 1809, Meriwether Lewis was found dead in his room at an isolated inn on the Natchez Trace, a rugged trail that connected Nashville, Tennessee, to the Mississippi River. He was just 35 years old. The official explanation, as given by those who arrived at the scene, was that Lewis had died from a gunshot wound to the head. They claimed it was suicide, an impulsive act brought on by depression and a troubled life. But the more we examine the events of that night, the more these explanations seem insufficient. Picture, if you will, the dark and lonely stretch of the Natchez Trace, a road notorious for its isolation and dangers. The inn where Lewis's body was found stood far from the bustling cities of the day, in a place where few would hear the faintest cry for help. It is a place where the shadows of history seem to stretch long, filled with questions that refuse to fade. The inn was known as the Grinder's Stand, a remote rest stop for travelers making their way through the wilderness. Meriwether Lewis had been traveling alone, though he had been on a diplomatic mission to secure funds for his recently published expedition journals. He was alone, far from the company of friends, and in a place where the world felt distant. The details of his death are peculiar. The gunshot wound was reportedly to his head, but the trajectory of the bullet suggested that it may have been fired at an unusual angle, inconsistent with a typical self-inflicted wound. Some say it was a near point-blank shot, but the injuries did not end there. Lewis had been shot twice, once in the head and once in the body. The latter wound, it was said, appeared to be a shallow graze. But how could someone intending to end their life shoot themselves with such inconsistency in such an unorthodox manner? Eyewitnesses at the scene claimed Lewis had been found in a state of disarray, with blood staining his clothes and signs of a struggle. Was this the result of a desperate act in a moment of personal despair? Or was something else at play? Some have speculated that he may have been ambushed or attacked by someone on the trail. But if that were the case, why would there be no sign of an assailant? Why would someone leave no trace of their presence, and yet take such care in ensuring Lewis's death was seen as a suicide? These unanswered questions have led many to wonder whether there was more to Lewis's death than a simple act of self-destruction. While the theory of suicide fits the narrative of a man struggling with deep personal turmoil, it fails to account for the complexity of Lewis's life. Throughout his journey, Lewis had faced moments of intense hardship, including the physical toll of the expedition itself. The years spent in the wilderness had left him struggling with physical pain, exhaustion, and a growing sense of isolation. On top of this, Lewis faced political disappointment. His work as governor of the Louisiana Territory was marked by disputes and frustrations. It is true that Lewis had been deeply troubled in the months leading up to his death. Correspondence from those who knew him indicated that he was suffering from bouts of melancholy, even anger, as he navigated the difficult terrain of his career and his personal life. But was this enough to push him to end his own life? There are those who believe that it was not. The circumstances surrounding his death have prompted some to suggest that foul play was involved. Could it have been murder? Some historians point to the possibility that Lewis's death was the result of a political conspiracy. In a time when power struggles were rife and personal vendettas often ran deep, could someone have targeted Lewis for reasons other than his personal despair? Lewis was involved in a number of sensitive issues during his time as governor of the Louisiana Territory, and some have speculated that his death might have been a political assassination. Was Lewis murdered to silence him, to prevent him from revealing secrets that could threaten certain influential figures of the time? Perhaps even more unsettling are the theories that revolve around the idea of a more mystical or inexplicable end. Some have entertained the possibility that there was something supernatural at play. Could Meriwether Lewis's death be connected to the deeply spiritual or mystical beliefs that permeated much of the frontier at the time? While this may sound far-fetched, it is important to note that the boundaries between the physical and spiritual worlds were often blurred for those living in such a tumultuous period. Could Lewis have been caught up in forces beyond his comprehension, powers of a kind that remain beyond our understanding? This theory, of course, has no evidence to support it, but it remains an intriguing aspect of the ongoing mystery. As we continue to delve into the circumstances of Meriwether Lewis's death, it becomes clear that there are many layers to the story. Despite the passage of time, the truth remains elusive, a shadow that refuses to take clear form. Did Meriwether Lewis die from a self-inflicted wound, as was recorded? Or was there something more sinister, perhaps an intentional ending orchestrated by another hand, or even a mysterious force that led him to an untimely death? It is impossible to say for certain. The fact that his death remains one of the great unsolved mysteries in American history is a testament to the complexity of his life and the enigma of his passing. We are left with the same questions that have haunted historians for generations. What truly happened on that fateful night at the grinder's stand? What secrets might still be buried in the shadows of the past, waiting for someone to uncover them? In the quiet corners of ancient history, there lies a strange and unassuming object that has puzzled archaeologists and historians for centuries. The ancient Roman dodecahedron, an enigmatic, geometrically perfect artifact, has been found scattered across Europe, hidden in the soil of forgotten lands. Its true purpose, however, remains shrouded in mystery. Despite its widespread discovery, we are left with only the faintest clues as to why the Romans, a civilization so skilled in engineering and organization, would craft such a peculiar object. Imagine, if you will, holding one of these objects in your hand. Roughly the size of a small fist, it is made of bronze or stone, often with 12 flat faces, each of them adorned with a circular hole in its center. The faces of the dodecahedron form a perfect, symmetrical shape, an intricate puzzle that seems to defy its simple form. It appears as though it could be a dice, a piece of a game, or even a device meant to measure something, but no records exist that explain its true function. These objects were first discovered in the 18th century, although their origins stretch much further back. Archaeologists have uncovered nearly 100 of these mysterious dodecahedrons across Europe, from Britain to Romania, and they all share strikingly similar features. 12 sides, each with a circular hole and a size that fits comfortably in the palm of the hand. Some are made of stone, others of bronze, and some even of glass. Despite this common design, however, the vast majority of their purpose remains speculative. What were these artifacts meant to do? Were they ceremonial objects? Tools for some now-forgotten practice? Or were they something entirely different? At first glance, it seems tempting to categorize the dodecahedrons as simple toys or games, an artifact of Roman leisure, perhaps. After all, the Romans were known to play games, and the dodecahedron does bear a resemblance to dice, which were popular in Roman society. However, there are a number of features that suggest the dodecahedron may not have been a recreational object at all. For one, no ancient records or archaeological sites have yielded any clear connection between the dodecahedron and games of chance. In fact, these objects have never been found in the context of Roman entertainment. Instead, they are often unearthed in rural areas, far from the bustling centers of Roman life, which raises the question, if they were toys, why were they buried so far from civilization? There is also the issue of the dodecahedron's near mystical geometry. The shape itself is a dodecahedron, a 12-sided polyhedron that has fascinated mathematicians for centuries. Its symmetrical design and precise angles suggest that it was crafted with purpose and care, which goes beyond that of an ordinary object. In fact, the dodecahedron is one of the 5 Platonic solids, a group of highly symmetrical, three-dimensional shapes that have intrigued philosophers and scientists since antiquity. This raises another intriguing possibility. Could the Romans have imbued the dodecahedron with symbolic or even magical significance? One theory suggests that the dodecahedron could have been used in some form of Roman divination or fortune-telling. The holes in the faces of the dodecahedron could have served as a means to align objects, like small pebbles or metal markers, to create patterns that were read for omens. In this view, the dodecahedron might have acted as a device used by soothsayers or priests in religious ceremonies, an object imbued with sacred significance. However, there is no direct evidence linking the dodecahedron to divinatory practices in Roman society, leaving this theory speculative at best. Another suggestion is that the dodecahedron was used as a tool for measuring time or calculating dates. The Romans were skilled engineers, and their understanding of calendars and timekeeping was sophisticated. It is possible that the dodecahedron was a part of a larger system, used to mark specific dates, perhaps related to the lunar or solar cycles. However, no inscriptions or explanations have been found to confirm this theory. What remains most puzzling is that the dodecahedrons were found in such a variety of locations, with no clear connection to any single practice, function, or region of the Roman Empire. Some have even speculated that these objects could have had an astronomical or astrological purpose, used to align with the stars or track celestial events. Given the Roman interest in astrology and their belief in the influence of the heavens on human affairs, it is not an entirely unreasonable hypothesis. The geometry of the dodecahedron, with its precise and symmetrical angles, could potentially have been used as a tool for celestial navigation, or perhaps even a type of early star chart. But, as with the other theories, there is no solid evidence to support this. Perhaps the most tantalizing and least likely idea is that the dodecahedron could have had a much more practical, yet still unknown purpose. Some have proposed that it was used as a tool for weaving, with the holes in each face potentially serving to thread cords or strings. This theory, while imaginative, remains largely unsupported by archaeological findings and is often considered a fringe idea by most experts. The sheer weight and solidity of the material used to make these objects seems at odds with such a practical function, leading many to discard this possibility in favor of more symbolic or ceremonial explanations. Despite the intriguing possibilities, there is no definitive answer to the mystery of the Roman dodecahedron. The object continues to defy classification, with no clear answers to its purpose. Its origins, its meaning, and its role in Roman society remain elusive, and as more of these objects are discovered, the mystery only deepens. Were they tools, games, or objects of religious significance? Could they have been part of a greater, forgotten system of knowledge, a key to understanding an aspect of Roman life that has been lost to time? Or were they perhaps something entirely different, an artifact so unique, so unlike anything else in the ancient world that it defies our attempts to understand it? The dodecahedron continues to stand as a silent, perplexing symbol of the unknown. As we peer into the depths of history, we are reminded that there are still many mysteries waiting to be uncovered. What role did these objects play in the lives of the Romans, and why have they left behind no clear answers? Perhaps the truth is buried beneath layers of time, waiting to be rediscovered. Or perhaps it is a mystery we are simply not meant to solve. Either way, the dodecahedron remains a quiet enigma, its secrets locked within the folds of ancient Rome, waiting for someone or something to finally unlock them.